Phoenix flying through the cold dark night. I walk among the dangers of a late great divide, forming wings of radiant light. She'll rise when the sun is out of sight. Warriors of everywhere, take heed, don't despair. You've come a long way, I know, and it's time to be aware. Feel the wind and take a flight, heading into morning light. And I see a country of souls, and I hear the birds echo. We will fly with our own wings to the sea, to the land where we are free and unburdened. Somewhere in the twilight, the brave will survive. Slashed and torn, they struggle through the maze, past the lights, while the radios of fate make us forget from where we came. Don't be late, the time is at hand. 144, please open the door and say I am. There is no time to ignore the promise of today. The message clear, not to fear. Now open up the gate to a land that's clear and bright, heading into morning light. A country of souls, and I hear the birds echo. We will fly with our own wings to the sea, to the land where we are free and unburdened.
Yeah, man. That's I don't know if it's Andrea or Andrea. I guess it depends on her preference. I've been meaning to find a really good end for the song. unlike other songs that I upload independently, I do that because, you know, gotta watch yourself. You gotta watch yourself on YouTube. So if you want to continue to watch that video, I'll put the link for it. It's on her own channel, and you can go check it out on her channel. You play it over and over and over. It's a beautiful song. It's awesome. That is not AI generated. That's the real deal. Real deal. So we've added 3 more moderators today. I added those right before the live started, about 30 minutes before or so. Let's see. Just names that I've become familiar with. Yeah, if somebody's not a moderator but wants to be, being a moderator doesn't mean I like you more. It just means I'm very familiar with you because of the duration that you've been in the Archaix family, contributions to the family, how long you've been here, and I've been noticing. I'm always in my comment sections. Yeah, I'm not Randall Carlson, guys. I don't put a post or a video out there and not acknowledge my community. Yeah, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy at all. I'm always going to be critical of people like that. I'm not that guy. Let's see. All right. We have an awesome presentation. This is a little different. We've had Grendel Dark before, twice in the studio doing similar videos to this, where we went through the books in the Archaix library, which there's too many. I've even had to add lower shelves that are closer to the floor. There's thousands of books, and this is after I've gotten rid of hundreds. So what you're about to see is a presentation, excuse me, from only 10 books. From only 10 books. We only have so much time. So we spent, a good 1 day, and then he stayed on my property that night, and then the next day we recorded what we'd found. So you're going to see Grendel Dark here in the studio, but his portions are pre-recorded so we could get the perfect audio. We haven't had perfect audio because I'm using dual cameras going back and forth, and we were having microphone interface problems. So in this way, the audio is fantastic, and you can see what he's presenting, and then it'll flip back, and I'll share what I found. Then it'll go back to him sharing what he found, back and forth. This video is going to blow some minds because we found, when you know what you're looking for, it makes it much more easier not to miss the juicy stuff. So yeah, we found some really good stuff. Archaix Underground, all good. We've taken on quite a few new members. We're over 600 members in Cypher. I'm just trying to be as cool as possible. We are trying to restrict the flow of too many incoming people at one time because it's a lot to ingest. When people get in there and see what's happening, it's a lot for them to take in. But we don't have anybody unhappy. Yeah, we also have this weekend's NFL. We had a major breakthrough, and I've gotten a lot of messages from people last night telling me how astonished they were that Atlanta did win, which was my prediction, and that at that last, because they battled that game, they battled and barely won, but still, yeah, it's not bad. So there were several NFL games that were inconclusive. Every week there's going to be inconclusive games because there's insufficient data. But when there's sufficient data for Cypher, like this last time, we went back to an older method of prediction. That's what people are doing in Cypher. They're finding different methods that fit soccer. We've got somebody in there real successful with soccer, and people doing golf and hockey, like NHL. Other 20 different people are doing NFL. And I just did some for NFL this weekend using an earlier predictive model that simplifies everything so anybody can do it. And yeah, it was pretty good. Eliminating the inconclusive ones where we get 0-0 output. I can't remember how many games were eliminated, but I ended up running predictions for 11 games, and I was correct 9 times. That's profound because we're not using sports statistics. We're not using any of that. So, yeah, the price is going up. it's already the 30th, so I'm probably just going to wait till January 1st. Since I'm still getting people curious, asking questions in the emails. I'll probably just wait till January 1st, and starting January 1st, we're going with the new much more expensive entry fee to Cypher, because we have enough people in Cypher to do what we're doing. Yeah, we've got more than enough. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I got so many irons in the fire. Archaix Academy 2 I've got so much on my desktop right now that for Archaix Academy, I may be moving it all from Podia to its own section on my own website, because GoDaddy has a lot more newer features where you can do direct downloads from the site. I might do that. I might just go ahead and do that and put Archaix Academy all its appropriate files. I have to pull up my email list because some of you already paid for the full Academy. I know who you are, but also there's a lot of people that are just doing the downloads. So I'm waiting on Big John, but I'll be talking to Big John this week about the Archaix Academy medallions, the antique nickel coins. But yeah, man, let's get straight into it. Let's get straight into it, because this is going to be some mind-blowing stuff. Some of it is just confirming Archaix tenets research. Other stuff blows uniformitarian dating and models out the water. There is no way you can consider Ice Age once considering these discoveries. There is no way you can consider all these impossible millions of years for all this when you see these things. I even have a video clip of a man using a metal detector on boulders and detecting metal and stuff. And on live video, the man takes crowbars and hammers and breaks down these rocks because his metal detector is telling him that there's something deep in there. And on video, you're going to see somebody pull out some type of dateless artifact. Amazing. Straight out of a boulder that he breaks apart because it's metal detector archaeology. Awesome stuff. We got awesome stuff in this video, guys. So let's go ahead and start with my buddy, Grendel Dark. Grendel Dark has contributed to Archaix. Some of the music you hear in Archaix videos is Grendel Dark. He makes his own music. He's on Spotify, but his main contributions though are coming from Austin, Texas, and he's the reason we put together that badass video on the tracks. The big vehicle tracks, dinosaur prints, and human prints are all on the surface. Yeah. Dinosaur skeletons and dinosaur fossils are almost always near the surface. Human structures, human skeletons, human artifacts are always deep in the ground, or almost always deep in the ground underneath dinosaurs, and as far down as coal seams, and even underneath coal seams. What? WTF? Why aren't all these uniformitarians talking about this? Because they can't. That's right, because they can't. I'm going to tell you about a dinosaur, but they're going to ignore 10,000 discoveries to do it. All right. Yeah, we got some pretty humorous things to look at too. There's no doubt. So hey man, without further ado, let's get into this video. Let me go ahead and find this first clip. Now, I'm in here in the studio with Grendel Dark. You guys know he's been here many times before. You know he's got that song on my channel, I Hate UFOs. So we spent a lot of time in the Archaix library, and we had a blast last night just going through old books like we do. And we found a bunch of stuff that's like related to tertiary field. Maybe it's not convergence field, evidence, but there's just so much. We could actually do this 50 more times, right? I mean, we barely even cracked the books in there before we found so much stuff. So what you got in your hand right now, and what does it mean to you, man? What kind of data did you pull out of this book that just is amazing? It doesn't really have to be necessarily convergence field related.
Right. Well, last time I came over, you let me borrow this book, which is After the Flood.
Thank you for bringing it back.
It's a great book. I mean, it goes through a lot of stuff, but some of the last two chapters has some very anomalous stuff about Anglo-Saxon records of dinosaurs. So they had many species. It wasn't just like one type of reptile that they saw. I mean, even in the Bible, the Old Testament mentioned the behemoth and the Leviathan. And like the behemoth was described as a giant vegetarian that lived out on the plains, so that would sound sort of maybe like a brontosaurus.
Yeah, it's
Rhinoceros like.
I know it sounds crazy, but now that we're finding the actual evidence in relief, statuary, common traditions, and all this is dated to the Dark Ages, this is blowing my mind. It now changes the traditional conservative biblical scholarly interpretation of hippopotamus. Right. They just threw that in there. Oh, they must be talking about the hippopotamus.
Exactly. And like the Leviathan, it was described as an armor-plated amphibian. So that was a different type of reptile that they saw as well. I mean, even the Egyptians knew the behemoth as well. They called it by a different name.
Yeah, and all these churches on the reliefs and all the way up in the Middle Ages, Renaissance art, when they're describing monsters, they're not talking about elephants and hippopotami. At all. They showed giant reptiles, all the Christian knights are fighting large lizards, and it looks like Komodo dragons invaded Europe.
Exactly. And then there's like, there was a picture I sent you in an email from a Welsh church that has a picture of a carog, and it was described as a coiled serpent with some rear back legs and wings.
Yeah, I'm going to show that picture. In this presentation, you guys will see that picture. It's on a Welsh church. It's basically a description of what, like the Grendels, the Carogs.
A carog, the Carrog. And actually the church that it was found in, the name of the city is Garreg, which is probably a Welsh interpretation of the same creature. But they were also called Addanc, which... the
Addanc, Addanc.
Yes, and that was another type of creature that they also saw. And this one actually swallowed a man whole like a big fish. His name was King Merovidus in 336 BC. He was slain by one of those. He was eaten. And later on, a son of an Earl Efraig had better luck, and he killed one of these monsters, called it Addanc.
That's a terrible way to check out. You know what? You pop up out of the sim and you're back outside the construct. You're like, oh, hell no. I just got ate by a dinosaur. Man, I'm going right back in.
Right.
No way.
But yeah, and even in the woods in Welsh around Pearlin Castle, they had the reputation of being frequented by winged serpents, that the terror of old alike. And they said they were as bad as foxes eating their chickens. So the farmers went out and slaughtered all of them and killed and wiped them out because they were eating their livestock.
You know, we have pictures in the Book of Wonders. It shows like a purple haze sky, and it shows the sun's dark, the sun's gone black, and it shows those same winged serpents filling the sky over Europe. Right. Yeah, I've shown those pictures on my channel.
Yeah, there's many tales of them, like all over the countryside of England and Scotland. They had the same thing, and there's like 200 places in Britain where they've seen these flying serpents. And some of them were described as like 9 feet tall or 9 feet long, with
it's just like
tapering tails and tapering heads.
Central America, they were calling the Quetzals, Quetzalcoatlus, man, feathered serpents flying through the air.
Right. And these were seen all the way up to the 15th century. So going back from the 4th century all the way up to the 1400s, they were still seen in the countryside.
So Bill Cooper wrote this book after the flood, and he's showing that after the flood we had these dinosaur type creatures, but most of the evidence that he's bringing to the table is all dated to the Dark Ages.
Exactly. So yeah, there's many accounts of like children being taken into lakes and being dragged into lakes by these long coiled serpents. All the Scottish lochs, all not just Loch Ness, had plesiosaurs.
Yeah, plesiosaurs. Yeah, that's like 1977. The Japanese found one.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and later on, I think an anthropologist tried to say it was like shark bones, and he never even saw the skeleton because the Japanese put it back in the water.
Well, the uniformitarians need any explanation. Any explanation will do as long as it's not the truth.
Yeah, because they put it back in the water because they were superstitious. They thought it was
also it stunk. It stank to high heaven. It was the putrid.
It was rotten. It was a rotten corpse. Because I think they have a picture of that in this book. Yeah, here it is, right here.
Yeah, show that close. Show that closer. Yeah, that's the illustration that the guy on board drew of the creature. That's a plesiosaur.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's many accounts from all over Britain. Like, there's...
Well, the Japanese put it. The Japanese are so proud. They're so proud. They put it on a postage stamp. And yet, Western science wants to tell them they're dumb. You know, I mean, these are scientists in Japan. They know what the hell that is.
Correct.
Yeah. It's crazy. Anything else in that book?
The next chapter goes into Beowulf and the legend of Grendel, which is not really a myth because they've dated back to like King Hrothgar actually was an actual king of the Danes,
right?
Back in 495 AD, and in 515 AD.
Oh yeah, we're in Dark Ages. We're going toward
right
522. We're gonna stop you right there. Yeah, man. Here, let me share my screen. I'm gonna show you what he was talking about. So we have 5 segments with Grendel Dark. That's the first one. I like this. I like doing them like this in the studio more. Matter of fact, I might invite my boy Tim to come over here and do it, because Tim and I have done a video in the studio together. It didn't work. The audio was not good. But doing it this way, yeah, man, so I can go live and show the clips. I like that. Let me share my screen real quick. So what's being described in the Anglo-Saxon records is very similar to another event that happened in 1533. It's depicted in this art. Now, I have showed this to you guys before, but this is an event in 1533 of people coming outside and running back inside real quick because the sky was full of winged serpents. And these same winged serpents are described. They are described especially in Central America. So it's real easy from the perspective of the 20th and the 21st century to look at all these things and say, man, our predecessors didn't know what they're talking about. But how can you dismiss it when you start finding all the relics, all the pottery, the vessels that have these same creatures shown in the artwork of the shields and bosses and reliefs and effigy? Well, I have research here too that's also talking about many of these unidentifiable effigies that can only be seen from the sky. They're like these creatures that are being described during these convergence field events. Remember the Colburn Bible, amphibians, reptiles, insects, they all just suddenly flood the realm at the same time that mammals and humans are being effed off. It's a convergence field. So this is what's being described by the Anglo-Saxon chroniclers. But this is actually from this picture though is from an event dated 1533. And apparently it happened multiple times. So we've talked about, I'll share my screen some more. I don't know why this keeps fading out. All right. So this kind of goes into, he was talking about that book was showing that Christian churches in the Middle Ages and Renaissance ages had all these dragons and reptiles and winged serpents all in the artwork. And it just doesn't make sense. You guys know in the historical record, we know that Christianity was already very advanced. It had even developed its own science called apologetics by the 5th century AD. But in the 10th century AD, what in the hell happened for 500 years for Christianity in the 1000s to all of a sudden it's arrested? It's not just arrested development. Arrested development means that it would have stayed advanced and not grown beyond that. It wasn't. It was total retardation. It had retarded development. It had gone backwards. So, because in the 10th century now we have Jesus, Lord of the Mushrooms. We've got churches now. Churches are now full of reliefs, bosses, and effigies of the very things that the people fear. This is the origin of the gargoyle and the demons that are on Renaissance era cathedrals and churches. But in the early churches of the medieval period that came out of the Dark Ages, they were scared of giant lizards, salamanders, snails, winged creatures, winged serpents. And this is the state of affairs for the church. And they had to develop heroes like flying saints that could deal with these demons, and different saints that had banishment powers and can send these giant lizards to hell. It's so bizarre. And then the common people, the state needed to develop their own hero as well. And we have stories like St. George and the Dragon. This right here is coming off of a church. It's a water spout. Another one, totally different church, totally different water spout. It too is reptilian. Look at these antiques, man. That is so amazing. Beautiful stuff. Here's a close-up of it. Yeah, why the fixation? If these events in the Dark Ages that we've shown right here in Archaix didn't happen, then why do we have so much evidence that it was remembered? So this is a depiction of what the Anglo-Saxons were talking about, long-necked quadrupeds that could also be bipedal predators. This is a description right here. This is a relief showing what the ancient Germans believed the Grendels to look like. These are the Grendels. We're going to talk about the Grendels here in a minute. Remember this relief right here when Grendel Dark comes back and talks more about out of that book by Bill Cooper called After the Flood. This is a really interesting because many researchers, even researchers who are not conspiracy theorists, have determined that this is a stylized relief of a pterodactyl with its wings folded by its side, recumbent. This is a pterodactyl in relaxed position with its wings right next to its side. This is from a Saxon shield. It is a flying reptile, like those flying reptiles I just showed you in that 1533 deal. Why would you make weapons like this? Why would you design your blunderbusses to have salamanders on them? Why? I ordered me a bunch of copper decanters. I'm not drinking out of that other thing. Somebody already told me, man, it was the hydrator. Yeah, man. The first time I ordered these, I had to just go ahead and discard them because it's a gimmick. Because you order copper to drink out of, but you don't order copper that's insulated with some type of rubber or plastic. That totally defeats the purpose. You want the copper in your water to ingest it and have the copper spread throughout your body. But so I had to order some new ones that were copper on the inside too. I'm also going to start wearing, I always wear a watch, but on the other hand, it was gifted to me, but a 100% copper band that's supposed to, when you put it close to your vascularity, it's supposed to have health benefits. I'm going to try that out. I'm all for trying stuff out. So, yeah, man, why would you stylize your weapons as salamanders? Why? Because even back when there were the hammers, look at the hammers. See the hammers? The hammers have little faces. The reason this was done is for the same reasons why you put your totems and sigils etched into the blades of your axes and swords and hatchets. You know, ancient warriors put them on their armor, put them on their shields, because the function of the blunderbuss is to put down the very things that you've charged the blunderbuss to do. And in this case, this weapon was really manufactured to protect somebody from giant reptiles. It's real simple. Real simple. This is in Wales. This is a Christian church in Wales, and it has crannogs. Crannogs are these winged reptiles. Of course, the Christians would call them demons, but they were a very real fear. They attacked people. They attacked people's animals. But these are put on the churches in Wales, and they called them crannogs. Here's a much better depiction. Oh, excuse me. Of this is a Saxon shield. A guy would have held it right here. He would have blocked weapons with it. But he's using a metal stylized and jeweled pterodactyl to defend himself with. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Now, we're definitely not talking about this because this would be ludicrous. When we're talking about these winged creatures, we're not talking about what the uniformitarians are lying about, because they're going to show you some stuff like this. And they're going to swear up and down this is proof of evolution. Just like Piltdown Man, the uniformitarians they shoved Piltdown Man down our throat for 30 years before somebody realized they were pig bones and that somebody had lied and that this was a construct. This is what our scientists do. Yeah, scientists are among the greatest gaslighters in history because they've been brainwashed to believe the very drivel that they're purporting. And they're cool with hoaxes. They're cool with all that until they get caught. This right here, do you remember when they found the little feathered dinosaur? Oh, here's proof of evolution. Dinosaurs had feathers. And they turn around, and this was in every newspaper, magazine. People were doing 1 and 2 hour shows on mainstream television. It exploded everywhere, even though it was later proven to be a hoax. It was totally put together. It's all BS. But it doesn't matter. The damage is done. Why? Because mainstream doesn't tell you that it's a hoax. All mainstream wanted to do was put it out there, saturate the field with the information. It doesn't matter if only 1% of that field find out later it's false. Same with Piltdown Man. It's all BS. Total BS. All right. So I still got interesting things to show, but I've got a lot of interesting things to talk about, but we're going to wait. We're going to go back into Mr. Grendel Dark and go to the second part because he's still in the same book.
All right, so yeah, back to this book, After the Flood by Bill Cooper. A lot of fascinating stuff in here. And we were discussing Grendel, the Grendels, and Beowulf went to visit King Hrothgar in 515 AD.
That's Denmark.
In Denmark, yes. And that was when Beowulf was 20 years old. And this is when he slayed the monster Grendel. And the monster Grendel was described as a youngling. So he was like a young Grendel, and he hunted solitary. But the way he's described, he was a bipedal reptile with tiny arms and long jaws, similar to like a velociraptor type creature.
This is Michael Crichton. He captured the essence of this. People watched Michael Crichton's movie Eaters of the Dead.
Yes.
And he mixed two historical factual deals, and people think it's fantasy when they're watching this stuff, and it's amazing. Because in Eaters of the Dead, he captured the essence of the real Ibn Fadlan manuscript of the Arab guy that was the Muslim that was captured by the Vikings, and they treated him as a brother, and he got to see Viking, lifestyles and stuff. It's called the Ibn Fadlan manuscript. And then in Eaters of the Dead, he actually went with the original Beowulf deals, and yes, they're like velociraptors.
Yeah, and the way he defeated Grendel was he got super close into his barreled into his chest, and got underneath the jaws and grabbed his tiny arms and ripped it off. And that's how he killed him. He ripped his arm off, and the Grendel bled to death. So that was the only way he could defeat it. But even prior to him going to defeat Grendel in Sweden, he cleared the sea lanes of what was called sea drakes or sea dragons. There were 9 bodies that he killed to clear the sea lanes of these sea drakes that were terrorizing the Swedish Navy. So he had already prior experience killing
it's so crazy
large reptiles.
So basically what we have is an Anglo-Saxon poem about a Geatish warrior in the Geats who went to their kindred, the Danes, and for some reason they had become experts in killing these reptiles. And that's what they were doing. And
that's correct. And then afterwards, after he slain Grendel and his mother, he went on back to his country, to the Geats, and he ruled for 50 years as king. And in 583 AD, his last killing was of something that was described as a pteranodon. It was a flying reptile, and it was a large one.
And didn't it kill him?
And it killed him. He did slay the thing, but yeah, it managed to kill him too. That was his final.
Yeah, he was already old.
Final hunt. Yeah, he was already old, but yeah.
Beowulf went out like a Viking.
Right.
Man, that is crazy. What else is in that book?
But most of those, some of the creatures that were known as the sea drakes were called nicors, and later that word turned into knucker, which is a Middle English word for water-dwelling monster or dragon.
Oh, that's where they got knickers from, the water demons.
Right. Yeah. And
this is the origin of Saint Nick, Santa Claus.
Correct.
People don't know this, man. The origin of Santa Claus is Saint Nick. Nick comes from the Knickers. The Knickers were water demons, and they attacked sleds.
Correct.
Isn't that something? And Santa had a sleigh pulled by reindeer, and man, they just turned the whole water demon thing around and turned him into Santa Claus.
Yeah, and these were the same creatures that Beowulf slain in the Swedish waterways. These are what were terrorizing it.
Wow, man.
Yeah, and even today, let's see, the pool where the Lyminster dragon lived is known to this day as Knucker's Hole.
Wow. So that in the Dark Ages, they were literally calling these reptiles demons. To the ancient Anglo-Saxons and the Danes, they were demons, these reptiles. In the Dark Ages, so if this is truly like the Colburn Bible says, these amphibians and these reptiles, they were deposited here during the period of the Doom Shape. So
that's correct.
So we're talking about Nemesis X object in Phoenix, both appearing in 522 AD, bringing the Dark Ages. And it's the only time in world history ever that these two objects were here at the same time. Both of them bring their own unique convergence fields. So we have tertiary and quaternary field development here, and the world is suddenly full of violent reptiles and amphibians, and humans are learning how to fight them.
Yeah, and there's even an Anglo-Saxon shield that's on display in the London Museum that has a pterodactyl with its wings folded on it. And Jason has pictures of it that he's going to show.
I'm going to show those. Yeah, that's crazy. So crazy. Yeah, go on. What else is in that book?
But yeah, and even the name Grendel, it was described a certain monster because King Andelstead of Wessex issued a charter in which certain lakes in Wiltshire were called Grendel mares, because Grendels lived in these swamp type places.
The reptiles and amphibians.
So they called them Grendel mares, Grendel becks, or Grendel pits. So there was Grendel Walds, Grendel Wood in Switzerland. So they were all over Europe. So it was a race of reptiles that was known all over Europe.
Dude, man, it's like, you know how much. So I've often said this, man, and it becomes more and more true the deeper we delve into history. But I've often said that the implementation of the printing press in 1440s is just the opposite of what we're taught it was. We are taught that the printing press opened up knowledge and knowledge came out everywhere. It's just the opposite. because it's my personal opinion that we have a lot of evidence that when the printing press became a thing, Gutenberg was financed by Jews. And this is why all the original books, the first things published were Bibles and Talmuds and Torahs. It's what
They were mass produced.
For the first 100 years. This is all that was mass produced, was Bibles, Torahs, and Talmuds, and so they saw what it was, and we're told in our history books that the printing presses, hundreds of them by the year 1600, were churning out all these books, but they were only churning out the approved historical books. Because the real histories about what we were coming out of is only found in the reliefs on the temples, the churches, the synagogues. It's found in the traditions, and real history is preserved on the shields and on the swords. Remember the Roman sword that shows a brontosaurus?
Correct.
So we have all the true history still in the architecture, which we don't understand. Churches with serpents and dragons and gargoyles, but we don't have the actual, no books were preserved. Beowulf, all the copies of Beowulf were burned.
There was one copy that was preserved.
Yeah, the only reason this guy was able to put this book together because one copy actually survived. So what I'm saying is the printing press had the opposite effect. It wasn't the explosion of knowledge, it was the explosion of censorship. Because only
they didn't want to print all these other accounts.
All these handwritten books, they weren't. The Voynich manuscript, it's right there, hold that up. This is handwritten book, hand illustrated book. Hold it closer. Guys, this book doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's like a medical book.
Yeah, it's mostly botany. Like I was going through it in the first,
but not a single recognizable plant. These aren't
weird.
Plants of our world.
And it's the root system, is how it grows out of the ground.
Yeah,
everything.
Everything is in this book about botany. I'm going to do an independent video on this book just to hammer the point in. But it shows anatomically correct people, architecture. It shows people doing people things.
Yeah, doing ritual.
So why are the plants
stuff
unknown to us?
Exactly.
Are these vapor cannabis? Is this what plants turn into in tertiary field? 60-year windows of the Nemesis X tertiary field is a long time for a whole new ecology, a whole new environment. So this is just crazy, man. Is there anything else in this book that we need to cover?
Well, I mean, basically, the other thing I took away from it is during that time, during the Middle Ages, I mean, it was mostly swamplands, especially like in Denmark. It's supposed to be cold there, but it's not. It's like humid swamps where they're discovering all these reptiles. It's not how it is
Isn't
now.
that unusual?
It's very unusual.
We have this historical idea foisted upon us. Every time we think of Vikings, we think of snow and ice and cold, because these are the pictures that are given to us by the uniformitarian establishment.
Right.
But it's not the histories of the Vikings.
No.
The histories of the Vikings are fighting in bogs, fens, swamps,
mares,
and they're always fighting lizards and yeah, man, so bizarre. I mean, it even makes sense of the dragon ships. Wouldn't you make your ship looking like a large reptile?
Same.
Because it's going to scare off large reptiles that are in the water.
And it's the same in South America. All their reliefs are large reptiles. All over the pyramids, and all their reliefs are giant reptiles. Wow. So they had to have been everywhere.
That's an awesome book. Hold that book up so people know what we're talking about. Is that the last of that from material from this book?
Yes.
Yeah, you need to read After the Flood by Bill Cooper, because it's a phenomenal book. A lot of history after the flood, but we're just focusing on the last two chapters.
The last two chapters. The first chapter is basically it's the lineages of Noah and how they're traced, like to the royalty of England, how they would trace their lineage back to Noah. Is the first part of it. There's great.
I remember the book. I read it in prison. I talked about it in my early videos. I talked about it a lot, but I need to revisit it because we're now looking at tertiary field phenomena in the Dark Ages, and this is a good source for that. Yeah, man, that book is awesome. I read it when I was in prison. I need to reread it because, as I've informed you many times, I have to reread many books because I was reading them through a Christian lens. Now I'm reading for pure information. I have to go back. I've been going back. The whole history of my channel, 5.5 years, I have been going back and representing material from books that I had previously read, but I've had to go back through again. So it's just the way it is. That's how you grow. There's so much information we missed because we were processing information through filters. This is the true danger of the uniformitarian brainwashing. And I'm going to show examples of that in this video. It's terrible. But so let's talk about some tertiary field stuff real quick. Let me share my screen. I got a few things to share that are really compelling. So share. All right. So I've been meaning to do a video on this book. Just haven't done it yet. I'm going to, though. But this is John Keel. Those of you who are deep in the research community, you already know who he is. Our Haunted Planet was his magnum opus, but he's got some really good books too, other ones. So this book is interesting. Here's table of contents just for this book. You can't get there from here. I'm going to show you that page. It's very interesting. The continent that vanished. It's a nice place to visit, but listen, he's talking about some really unusual terrestrial phenomena. Towers of glass and theories of putty. Strong men and stupid enterprises. A funny thing happened on the way to extinction. Scientists in collision. John Keel reports the facts as they stand. I wasn't ready for Our Haunted Planet when I read this about 20 years ago. I just wasn't ready for it. I am now because I understand what he's describing. He's describing tertiary field phenomena. He doesn't even know it. So here's Mimics of Man, Men in Black lore in the CIA, Rendezvous with the Damned, Demise of the Gods, The Secret of Ages. Yeah, this is, for those of you who are book collectors like I am, this is one that needs to go in your collection. Here's how he starts the book off. You can't get there from here. I'm just going to read this first paragraph in a little clip right here. While hairy, beetle-brown cavemen were laboring to invent fire and the wheel, there already existed on this planet a highly developed civilization of intelligent beings. They built massive cities of stone, many of which are still standing. They methodically constructed giant mounds of earth all over this planet for some purpose that still escapes us. They scattered peculiar artifacts of stone and metal across every continent. And they sailed every ocean, mapping the entire globe systematically. Then they vanished. This is what he's talking about. He says, cavemen inherited the earth. They regarded the ancient cities as sacred places. As the centuries ticked off, they became conscious of other life forms around them. So he doesn't know what he's tapping into, but he goes into examples of civilizations that should have been thriving and should have developed into other things, but at the pinnacle, at the height of their culture, the entire civilization just goes off the roadmap. They vanish. Over and over and over, we have provided examples in Archaix of many of these things that he's talking about. Different cultures and civilizations that, for no apparent reason, vanished. The only thing that we know is the common denominators are there were Phoenix years or there were Nemesis X years. So Chapter 9 is Men in Black lore in the CIA. This is where he goes into giving many examples from eyewitness accounts, different people who claim when they observed phenomena that was just unreal, didn't belong in this world, well, they couldn't process it, and they contacted authorities. Often before the authorities would even get involved, these Men in Black type figures would come and basically debrief them. and everything would be all right. And sometimes they would have memory loss, and sometimes it just wouldn't. It wasn't clear what it was they initially reported. It's crazy. The Adjustment Bureau is what he's describing. You got to understand, this book was written like 2.5, 3 decades ago. No, this book was written in the 70s. I'm sorry, like 50 years ago. Again, he started his book out explaining the civilizations that just vanished. He ends his book in the final chapter. Where is everybody going? Strange things happen on the 24th of the month. People vanish. On October 24th, 1593, a Spanish soldier standing guard in Manila in the Philippines suddenly disappeared. 24 hours later, he found himself in Mexico City, some 9,000 miles from Manila. This is in the 1500s. Without any idea how he had managed to travel so far so fast. We could dismiss the seemingly factual historic account of this case if it weren't for the disturbing fact that such things continue to happen on a regular basis. And then he goes on and gives account and after account after account after account of people who were plucked from their lives and suddenly thrust in a different time period, in a different situation, and even have evidence to bring back that what they experienced was very real. Awesome book. It is an awesome book. So here's another one. Not of This World. It's another book I was going through. While Grendel Dark was going through his books, he found 5 books and I found 5 books from which we could pull some material out. And it just gets more and more and more bizarre. So in this book, what is this? This is from the 1970s. Peter Colosimo, Not of This World. In November 1869, a tiny object, a tiny object upset the scientific world. An object which itself did not even exist any longer, but which had left an irrefutable trace. A screw. Look at that number, Archaix veterans, cipher knots. What do you got there? 5.08. Where do you recognize that number from? I know Jonathan Rogers is in the chat. I know he knows what I'm talking about. A screw 5.08 centimeters long, which had remained for countless thousands of years, wasting away inside a rock from the so-called Abbey Gallery in Treasure City, Nevada. When the rock actually came to be split, at that point, the screw, which one imagines was of iron, no longer existed. But the marks of the thread were still clearly visible and perfectly showed the spiral formation. A screw. The strata supposed to be millions of years old. In July 1887, Ronald Charles Calais says, 4 men looking for precious metals in Spring Valley near Eureka, Nevada, noticed an odd object protruding from a rock. The thing was a human leg, broken off neatly above the knee. After getting rid of the quartzite around it, the leg was taken to Eureka, where doctors carefully examined it. The leg was undoubtedly that of a man, but what a man! From the knee to the heel, it measured 99 centimeters, which meant that the man must have had a height of 3.65 meters. All right. You know what? I'm going to need some clarification on that. Hold on just a second. How long is 3.65 meters in feet? 11 foot, 7 inches. All right. Well, that's the same size as I think it's Goliath's brother or Goliath's son, who had 6 fingers on each hand and six toes on his feet. Was described as a beast in the Old Testament. All right. The bed frame of Og of Bashan in the Old Testament was 13 feet. So near Brayton, near the source of the Tennessee River, there are human footprints in what today is solid rock. Those feet had 6 toes and are 33 centimeters wide. And near them, there are gigantic hoof marks about 20 to 26.5 centimeters broad. So humans that were 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 feet tall would not have regarded themselves as giants in the world of the megafauna, because all the megafauna are big. They're only called megafauna because today we grow 6 foot, 6'5". It's all about perspective. They lived in a very different world. But let us recall the huge 6-toed feet at the source of the Tennessee. And remember that at Crittenden in Arizona, a number of workers in 1891 uncovered our sarcophagus while excavating an old building and found it contained a human being 3 meters high and with 6 toes on his feet. So this isn't just a footprint. It's not just a femur. This is a human skeleton that we have since lost that was found in a sarcophagus. The skeleton was over 9 foot in height, and it had 6 toes on his feet. 6 fingers and 6 toes is not uncommon. We have a story in the Ancient Giants of America book that I've showed on my channel, where the FBI and the Smithsonian appeared, and the Smithsonian agents even had weapons, and they shut down an archaeological site somewhere in the Midwest, New Mexico or Arizona, same area, where they found in a cave full of amazing textiles with thread counts we can barely get with machines today. And the skeletons had red hair and 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on their feet, and they're anatomically perfect humans otherwise. But I guess if you have extra digits, you could make better textiles. Yeah, they were stripped ass naked in the field, so they couldn't take anything, and their entire archaeological site was shut down. They had to sign NDEs, and yeah, we don't know any. Those artifacts are gone. We don't know anything about it. Before I go to the next one, that's where I'm at now. Let's go ahead and see what Mr. Grendel Dark has to say on this next one. Have we covered two Grendel Dark ones? Or oh yeah, we've only covered 2. All right, here's the third one. All right, Grendel, what book you got there?
It's called Mysteries of the World, Unexplained Wonders and Mysterious Phenomena.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, this book goes all over the place with mysteries all over the world. But the first one that I hit on as I was going through it is about Glastonbury Tor in England, which is also rumored to be the site of where they crossed over into the mythical land of Avalon.
Yeah, show that picture of the Tor. You know, if I remember correctly, that might be Silbury Hill, 130 feet tall.
Yeah, that was so. Yeah,
I don't remember how tall Glastonbury is, but it's got a church on the top of it now. But it used to be something else.
Yeah, correct. And to get to that church, there's like a labyrinth you have to walk around on top that mirrors what was found the labyrinth at Crete, and also in Hopi traditions of the labyrinth. So perhaps you have to cross through a labyrinth to get to the other side, or to cross over to the otherworldly place. And Avalon was also described as a peaceful, healing island where neither rain, hail, nor snow can fall. So that sounds like maybe like a vapor canopy place. It's also described as like a twilight, dream-like place. So maybe the light was different there.
Well, it does sound more like the belief in Avalon would be the tradition of an event or time period and not an actual place. Then it would like you said, the appearance of a vapor canopy.
Yeah, and it appeared, supposedly during the time of King Arthur, and only certain people were allowed to cross over.
Man, again, right back to the Dark Ages, the 500s.
Right.
Right there we go.
Yeah, because
looks like all roads lead back to the Dark Ages.
Correct. And it says, yeah, only a small circle of people were allowed to enter Avalon, in addition to its female ruler, Morgan Le Fay, and her 8 sisters. Its only inhabitants were the servants who lived in the Maiden House and Merlin, who is sometimes equated with the Bard Taliesin. And also, King Arthur had to die before he was allowed to cross over to Avalon. He was brought over by the priestesses of Avalon, came and took his dead body over.
I had read somewhere that Avalon was associated to the Isle of the Apples.
Yes, yeah, right here. It's translated as the Island of Apples, a place that lies in another
And the
world.
reason it was called an island is because initially the surrounding land around the Tor was in the center of a shallow lake.
Correct.
Okay.
And yeah, right here it says that there was something about the way that the lake looked like on clear days. You could see to the underworld. So that was like the bridge. The lake was the bridge between the two worlds to get to Avalon.
How interesting.
So that ties into like the mariners suddenly appearing from the water. I mean, the same kind of thing. Like,
yeah, that is.
It's tied to water somehow.
The belief in a twilight area. It's so J.R.R. Tolkien. So, yeah, that's interesting. And the Dark Ages, the connection is real.
Right. And I mean, there's connections to. I mean, it's mostly connected to the Arthurian legends, but I mean, according to a lot of people, the road leading to Avalon was so imprecise, given the characteristics assigned by the storytellers, that it was hard to get to. Like, only if you didn't know the way there, you would never be able to find your way in.
Wow. All right. Is that it on the Arthurian?
Yes.
So, again, we have more evidence of vapor canopy, and it's the right time period. It doesn't even matter if King Arthur was real or not, or King Arthur is a borrowing from a much older culture, none of that. It's actually dated by tradition to the 5th century, to the 6th century AD, the 500s. Yeah, that's all interesting to me. Super interesting. Lady of the Lake. The whole King Arthur deal, we now see that it's Ralph Ellis has given us some very compelling information about the whole Arthurian legend actually coming from somewhere far away from the Central Eurasia, the Edessa area or Turkey. I can't remember, or was it India? And I can't remember. Ralph Ellis was giving us the business though, and he had the receipts. He was showing us that the original story didn't come from England at all. It's an import. Like so many stories in history, they're just imported. But it's like the Heleolithic Maritime Empire of the Amuru. They had a whole syllabus that's very, very similar to what we have today as the Book of Genesis, where we have a pre-flood world, where we have this great flood. Then we had a recovery period. And during the recovery period, we had a hero rise up who became famous for being a giant slayer. And this hero then turned the people toward God and started building altars. Then they made him king and he became evil. But when he became evil, though, his own mother, who was still very young and beautiful and was of Titan stock, where he was part Titan, he was 2/3 giant, 1 part Titan. She was a full Titaness blood. And descended from people who actually survived the cataclysm. They were full-bred Titans. She was first generation post-Diluvian generation. And he was like way back. He was born 250, I believe it was 252 years after the flood. And he was 1 part Titan and 2 parts giant. And I'm talking about the same person that's Gilgamesh, later called Amraphel. He made us fall from the Tower of Babel incident. He started young as a giant killer. He subdued the children of Iapetos, the children of Jupiter. In the Bible, there are the Japhethites. But we're talking about Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord, who later became demonized because he did kind of stray away from the religious deal. But his story is enmeshed with the female Semiramis, who's really she's pulling the strings behind him, and she's full of political intrigues, and she ends up becoming the queen of Babylon after he dies in 1772 BC while hunting in the Huel Marsh. He's killed by a giant boar. Now, this is where the Jews rewrote the story, and they said that Esau was disguised as a wild boar and killed the king of Babylon, Nimrod. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that in my unpublished book, which I have as a PDF download called Mighty Hunter Before the Lord, I give the full account of all the different civilizations in the ancient world that all said that a famous giant-killing king after the flood had died by a boar. A boar killed them. And it's a lot of cultures that all remembered this, but only the Jews. The Jews are the only people in the world that have a story that someone who was one of their ancestors was disguised as a boar and killed the most famous man in history. I'm not buying it. So here's Gods of Air. Share this. Thank you, Grendel. I know you're listening. Or no, you're probably at work. He works in the medical field. So he's probably, Monday through Friday, he's at work. He'll probably watch this tonight when he gets off. All right. Let's see. Share the screen. Here's the next book. Here's a book I did. Grendel sharing his, and I'm sharing mine right here. Here's a book. Here's another one that I had read. Gods of Air and Darkness, Richard E. Mooney. So in this book we have Dr. Chao Ming Shen in the Gobi Desert in 1959 found the impression of a ribbed soul on sandstone, reckoned to be millions of years old. Dinosaur footprints have been found in similar sandstone beds. The ribbed sole was of a shoe, a clearly defined shoe print near dinosaur footprints. What? A rock carving in the American Southwest at Havasupai Canyon, Arizona, shows a Mesozoic brontosaurus. A rock drawing, also from North America, shows a clearly recognizable stegosaurus, also a Mesozoic saurian. Total brainwashing. Uniformitarian model is a brainwash that forces you to deal with anomalies in a certain way. I'm going to give an example. One of these books has a fascinating look at how the brainwashing really affects these writers that put this stuff together, what it makes them say. A design on pottery discovered at an ancient site at Sacal in Panama bears a striking resemblance to a pterodactyl, also stemming from the age of the reptiles. Oh, here it is. I put brainwashing in the margin. So after itemizing all these impossible artifacts, because this book has a lot of them, all these impossible artifacts and discoveries and proof that dinosaurs and humans were coexisting, he's still brainwashed into believing that all these layers of rock took millions and millions of years. He can't get out of that. This is what he says. This point of view, what's the point of view? Hold on. He's talking about, if, however, mankind, he gives the theory that if humans aren't millions and millions of years old like the dinosaurs are, but we've got all these artifacts here, then evidently humans came from somewhere in space back then and visited, and then came back later in more modern times. He's trying to force fit things, violating Occam's razor, violating all the tenets of Sherlock Holmes, probably pissing off Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, but he's coming up with all kinds of models except the obvious. This point of view may mean that mankind, if not already living here, was visiting this planet many millions of years ago, if our dating of dinosaur bones is correct. In this connection, it is interesting to note the unusual finds of artifacts which could date from the Mesozoic or even earlier. There is an example already mentioned of Galt's cube. a steel cube found in a bed of coal in Cilicia, which must have been there before the coal bed was formed. This would place the object in Carboniferous times, many millions of years earlier than the Mesozoic. And there is that jar encased in rock, which could also be many millions of years old. It is not beyond the bounds of possibility, therefore, that spaceships from other civilizations have been visiting this planet over a period of hundreds of millions of years. This is what the uniformitarian model forces people to do. If they can't process the known and demonstrable fact of basically water-soluble chemicals and how they act in water under catastrophic vibrations, and how all of these sediments, if they're flooded with a bunch of water, the vapor canopy collapses, the surface of the world is absolutely flooded. It's very temporary though, and it happens to different areas at different times during the cataclysm, which lasts for days. All these materials then settle within minutes and hours by weight and density. And then when the vapor canopy is gone, there's nothing protecting the world. It still takes weeks or months for the ozone layer to begin protecting the world and for the magnetosphere to build back up to repel solar radiation. The world gets burned. Just like a tablet put into a kiln, the fire burns the soft clay, hard as stone, and everything in it. This is what happened to the layering in the geologic column that we've been taught since we were little kids. Isn't true anywhere in the world. It has never been found anywhere in the entire world. Do you find this perfect layering of Jurassic and Cenozoic and the closer to us Pleistocene and the Holocene and the ancient Mesozoic and the Cretaceous and the real far away Permian? None of that has ever been found. What they do is find 4 or 5, 6 layers in one area and then determine what those layers are by the fossils they find in them. Then they turn around when they're questioned about how old the fossils are. They tell them, oh, well, that's easy to see. It's because this layer here is this and this is there. It's circular reasoning. You date the strata by the fossils that are found in it. You date the fossils by the strata that they're located in. It's totally circular reasoning, and it works because nowhere in the world has the whole column ever been found together. It's all arbitrary and it's total BS. But it's what people have been trained in. It's brainwashing. It's why Randall Carlson can't get out of his loop. When I listen to Randall Carlson, I'm hearing idiocy. It's absolutely moronic, the things coming out of his mouth. I'm sitting there like, wow, only dumb collective personalities could ever absorb this information and assume it to be true. They have to not know about all these other things that we have brought to the table in Archaix. Even creationists, I'm not even a Christian, but even creationist scientists have brought many awesome things to the table. And it all has to be ignored to push this BS that these layers are hundreds of millions of years old, or even millions of years old, or even hundreds of thousands of years old. Let me show you a video. You know what? I'm not even going to wait. I'm going to go, as soon as I get done with this book, I'm going to show you this video. Blows that whole theory that these layers and rocks are millions of years old. So these maps alone should cause, now he's talking about the Zeno Brothers map, the Piri-Reis map. I can't remember all the names, but he spends a whole chapter in this book explaining that these ice-free maps, and there's 4 of them that are 500 years old that have been researched by the United States Navy. These maps can't exist. He's going into the detail in this, and I was really impressed with this. He says these maps cannot exist if we're dealing with time periods that far back. He says he even says this, that the ice ages may not have ever happened, and our model is totally wrong. So these maps alone should cause a revolution in considering the past, and they point to 2 factors in particular that have never been taken into account by our scientists. One is that our ideas regarding the Earth's climate in the past of 6,000 to 8,000 years ago are in error, and that quite possibly the hypothesis of an ice age in the past is totally erroneous, as was pointed out in Colony Earth. This leads us to this book here. Oh, hold on. Let me find it. I need to show you this. So while I was in the studio, while I was in the library building with Grendel Dark, I read this passage, and I know that I have the book Colony Earth. So I hunted through the appropriate section, and I found it real fast. Here's Colony Earth by the same author. I didn't know he'd already covered these subjects about stratification, ooparts, out-of-place artifacts, and is Ice Age even real? I didn't know he'd already done this in the 70s. So you can imagine my surprise when I was flipping through this book and I said, oh, hell no. I even told Grendel Dark, this book is a video all by itself. I will be doing, probably in January, I will be doing a video. There's so much data in this book. Same guy who wrote this one. This is the book we're reviewing right now. We're looking at right now. But this book here merits its own video, so you can imagine how tickled to death I was when reading this book, which is not a first edition, and I'm glad it's not. It's not a first edition, meaning in the intro, it told me that he had to write another book right here. Or he references another book in here, Mysteries of Time and Space. I am so glad that he mentioned that, because I have this book too. And it is a video all by itself. It has so much amazing stuff in it. So yeah, that's how you know, when people come over here and we spend time together in the library, just going through things, bouncing ideas back and forth, it just creates a dynamic. I'm on my property, you know, alone a lot of the times. I'll go in the library and I don't get that dynamic. I'm by myself, just researching different things, no big deal. But when there's another soul involved, it's so weird how all of a sudden information just starts jumping off the shelves and keep finding all these things. And even though he's looking at totally different books than I am, it's a spiritual phenomenon, but it's because we're vibrating on the same frequency, and these things are just happening. And all this information for this video here just basically leapt off the shelves. So crazy. So, yeah. So that was the beauty there. You got two more videos. This video gave birth to at least two more videos that you'll be getting really soon. So look at this in this book. This is a geode. Geodes are something like oysters. Not much to look at on the outside, but apt to contain something valuable within. To an untrained eye, geodes look like ordinary stones, but their cavities are often filled with a small wonderland of colorful crystals and minerals. A good geode, carefully sawn in half, is much prized by rock collectors and by those whose business is selling rocks. This geode produced a technological artifact. The Koso geode resembled a spark plug with a shaft of metal about 0.08 of an inch thick, encased in white ceramic, just like a spark plug. It was thought, however, to be 500,000 years old. There's that uniformitarian brainwashing again. This is not the best example of spark plugs that have been found in million-year-old strata. We have other ones. All right, so we still got some amazing things. Yeah, we still got amazing things to see. But let's tap into our next Grendel Dark video clip. Let's get back into that book again.
All right, so yeah, Mysteries of the World. And there is a small section on dragons. And it describes on, because dragons are all over the place. They're in Anglo-Saxon records. The Chinese mythology has records of dragons, and they're all described in the same manner. I mean, so it had to be something that was actually seen by people that were living at the time, because there were actually 3 different types of dragons that were described, and they were all described as having long bodies, flying creatures, and perhaps they were dinosaurs that actually lived longer because they could take flight and could get away from people that were hunting them. And they also were described to breathe fire, which would tie into some of like the monitor lizards and like Komodo dragons that have, the venomous breath that if it touches your skin, it's going to burn you, as well as put that flesh-eating bacteria that would simulate fire. So that might be how they described the ancients.
Yeah, I just recently read about those reptiles that spit that flesh-eating bacteria. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, because all of them were described. That's why they didn't want to be like anywhere near their mouths when they were hunting them, because if you were getting bit or slobbered on, you were pretty much toast. And yeah, there's also dragons that appeared all over in Egypt. The god Nephthys and Isis transformed themselves into dragons, hovering over the embalmed body until it was buried. Also in Greek mythology, the god Zeus put the dragon Typhon under Mount Etna, where a burst of the foul, fiery breath caused the earth to tremble. Apollo took control of the oracle at Delphi by fighting off the dragon Python. Jason and the Argonauts sewed dragon teeth that sprouted into invincible giants in the king near Colchis. There's many accounts, and also the most famous one is St. George and the Dragon, and that's also a Middle Age account.
Yeah, it's Middle Ages.
Of a knight encountering dragons as well. But yeah, Asian dragons also they live in rain clouds, lakes, and springs. So again, in China the same way, they lived in swamps, waterways. So
yeah, the in Chinese mythology, the dragon was a bringer of rain.
Correct.
Also, if it was raining really hard, if it was raining real hard and then it stopped raining, the old Chinese expression was the dragon is caged.
All right. And this book, like I said, it jumps around from all kinds of stuff. But some of the other stuff I found was like the raining of fish.
Oh yeah.
That's reported throughout the centuries. I mean, that could be a convergence field from somewhere else, because it's not fish and it's usually like one specific species of fish or a specific species of insect that comes raining from the sky. It's not like just a hodgepodge. So it's like if it's like a water spout that sucked this up, it wouldn't be discriminate.
Yeah, no potluck coming from the sky.
No way.
Yeah, that's all so bizarre. It's parthenogenesis from the sky. It's crazy.
Correct. Yeah, that would say. I mean, a lot of the stuff that comes down is either fish or reptiles is known.
Amphibians, turtles, lizards, insects. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not mammals that come from the sky. It's what's described as stuff that can replicate themselves,
just like the Colburn Bible said. It's amphibians and reptiles and bugs, insects appear when the doom shape appears, and everything else is getting killed and suffering and hiding and all that. It's a good point though. No mammals fall from the sky.
No.
We've never had a rain of squirrels. Yeah. Can you imagine beavers falling all over New York City?
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, it never happens, man. Just fish.
Yeah.
Lizards, salamanders.
Frogs.
Yeah, frogs, cocoons, larvae, insect pods.
And then the next part, that hits upon would be like the Bermuda Triangle, which maybe that's a convergence field that never closed. Or there's an opening to another reality there, because things go in there and sometimes don't come out. They disappear.
Well, planes aren't independent of each other, so there's going to be nodal points where they touch, where they intersect. There's going to be an over framework that connects all the planes. So that could be one of those little stilts. It could be one of those little permanent areas where planes are continually in contact.
Yeah, that could explain a lot of them, like the national parks where people disappear, all the disappearances of things that could be localized convergence fields. where if you step in the wrong place, you just go through the other side.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Just contemplating that. This whole tertiary field phenomenon. It's maybe there is a reason why they have completely obfuscated the past, and because the collective isn't ready for this type of information. How could you be? I mean, in essence, I guess the mystery, I guess the overwhelming part is when people start realizing they've been miseducated. Because it's not a big deal to understand that dragons were around when you take it into context of dragons are large lizards. So we have gigantic anacondas, alligators, and saltwater crocs that have been found today.
Yeah, if they're left to their own devices, they grow as large as you let them grow.
In their own environments and all that.
As long as they have the right food supply. Yeah.
Some of the insects are gigantic in the Amazon basin. So one wonders if the entire world is like that, which it's not. So what does that mean? It means we're probably in an ice age now. And it's probably this new ice age we've been in for about at least over 1,000 years is what's killed off most of these life forms.
That's correct. Because, most of the accounts that from the Middle Ages on, they don't talk about snow or ice. They talk about swamps, swamplands, it being humid, being hot. So, yeah.
Damn, I never even realized that, man. But you're right. All the stories of the Vikings and all, it's in fens and bogs. And
yeah, there's no records of ice.
In swamps. Yeah, the Viking, that's Hollywood gave us that ice and snow.
Just because they were in the north.
In Europe, because of how it is today. It's just like the uniformitarian, trained historians are always trying to impose a 365-day calendar on all these ancient calendrical systems that were day count. They were diurnal-based systems that only knew a 360-day year. And they keep getting these false readings and all that, like 2012 being the end of the Mayan long count.
Right. And I mean, all the account of the mammoths that are found in the permafrost today, I mean, all that was swamp land. That's where they lived.
Yeah,
they couldn't survive in a nice.
They've done new tests on the hair and all that, and they found out the hair was hollow.
Correct.
It's designed to cool you down, to
just
hold,
like apes.
To hold moisture. Yeah, all that shit we've been told about Ice Age. The woolly rhino and the woolly mammoth were tropical and temperate beasts.
Correct.
And their hair was designed to cool them off. It was not designed to keep them warm.
No.
So
and
crazy.
All of those are in the northern climates where there's ice now, but it wasn't back then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we know it wasn't because they got undigested tulips still on their tongues where they froze in situ. Anything else in that book?
That was it for this one.
Awesome. Don't be baffled that I can talk without moving my lips. I'm a master ventriloquist. But no, really, Grendel Dark's stuff, G. Britton, was pre-recorded. So we can have the best audio experience imaginable, because the 2 times priorly he was in the studio, our audio was terrible because we were trying to share cameras and microphones. Instead, we just pre-recorded that and went live like this. So now it's time to blow your mind on something. Man, let me show you this book. It is so compelling. The information just gets deeper and deeper. Before I show that, well, let me show this real quick. Let me share my screen. I saw a comment I'm going to answer real quick. All right. I told you many times on road trips where Big John or Cole and I would be in these antique stores and these old bookstores, and I would hold up all these little books like this. I used to tell you guys, you don't understand. These were all published before the internet. These guys had to visit these libraries, pull this information out. These books are fantastic. This was the internet of their day. And they're still available nationwide. All over, you can still go to used bookstores. And most of the time, these are 50 cents to $1 a book, because the collective, The living dead have no idea how much valuable data is in these old paperbacks that are disappearing from the shelves of America, because people buy them, and then when they pass away, their sons and daughters, executors of their estate, think these are garbage and that nobody's ever going to want them, and they get discarded. Why they sell their moms and dads and grandma and grandpas, antiques. They don't realize the value of these. I spent a fortune buying. My publisher, he'll tell you, Paul, he gets a bunch of these in the deal, and he always hits me up first and sends me photographs, and I get a bunch of photographs in my emails from Paul, and I select which ones I want, and sometimes I don't even want to select. I just say, hey, Paul, put a price on it, man. I'll buy them all. And he sends me a big old box, and I add them to the Archaix library. I have hundreds of these books. They are gold mines. You do yourself a favor. I guarantee you can get years worth of reading for less than $100. You can buy these at 50 cents to $1 a book everywhere, and they don't even know what they got. They don't even know what they got. The living dead do not value nonfiction. All they want is fiction. Louis L'Amour books, fiction books, will sell way more than these do. So. Yeah, man, there are people who have storages that they lose that are packed full of books. And then what happens? They just get thrown away because the people don't understand the value they possess, they contain. They just don't know. They just don't know. This book here, Beyond the Time Barrier. There's one single store. This book too, Andrew Tomas, We Are Not the First. I did 2 fascinating van vlog videos on this book, because John was driving the van passing over Arizona and New Mexico, and I did 2 presentations by Andrew Tomas. We Are Not the First and We Are Not the First 2. It has a different title, but they're on YouTube. You can check them out. We're going deep in those books. I haven't done one on this book yet, and I'm going to, but there's one story that can't wait. There is a historical story from 1901, and it's 100% related to convergence fields that must be said. Remember how the Phoenix years are. May of 1901 to May of 1902 was on the 138-year deal. The Phoenix years are different than the years that we have in our calendars. Just like in May of 1763, we have documented so many weird things happening all the way to May of 1764. Same thing with May of 2039 is when the events are going to begin, hitting their peak in May of 2040. So Phoenix years run a little bit different. So somebody in the chat asked about how did Jason discover the Nemesis X 792-year period? The same way I discovered the 138-year period. I documented the history of the world, and then I found out the similar events all happened every 138 years. Well, the Nemesis deal was a little bit different, because there are every 792 years, really, and I have whole charts that show these and videos that explain this. But it was a later discovery that there's a 60-year perihelion period, and then 732 years the Nemesis X object is gone. And then it's totally forgotten by all the civilizations of the world. And then when it returns, it's like an all-new experience, but it returns 732 years later. But the phenomenon is here for 60 years at a time. It is the origin of both the Sumerian sexagesimal system and the ancient Aryan decimal system. So yeah, it's the same thing, just looking at historical events and then matching up what all these traditions say about like Nibiru and the strange phenomenon and the origin of the 60-year period. It is so baffling. I haven't even got to this point. I was going to bring this into my convergence field data later, but Nemesis X from the very beginning, do you know what that 60-year period was referred to in ancient Egypt? It was the crocodile period. Why would the ancient Egyptians refer to a 60-year period that was holy to the gods as a crocodile? Yeah, it kind of makes sense of the later traditions where the hero is always standing on the back of the crocodile, on the back of the giant salamander. Yeah, listen, we're getting closer and closer and closer to unveiling the full truth about convergence fields. Things are starting to really make sense. Why The Nemesis X object in ancient times was always associated to reptiles. Yeah, even in the Sumerian cuneiform references to the appearance of Enki, he said that water was everywhere, and so were the reptiles. And I have that documented in my Chronicon. It's crazy, guys. We're getting closer and closer to understanding what's really going on here. Colburn Bible opened it up with basically just telling us straight out, during periods of the doom shape, humans and mammals may be going through a repopulation, or some of them are actually going into a passage phase, leaving our world and going somewhere else. But being brought into the world during these periods are reptiles, amphibians, and insects. It's so bizarre. So bizarre. But look, but right here, beyond the time barrier, Andrew Tomas, you're not going to believe this story. I didn't even know it was a famous story, but I'm going to. I made notes. So, in this book, we have a story. It's called The Petit Trianon Mystery of 1901. Now, starting in May of 1901, we have convergence field activity belonging to the Phoenix, not Nemesis X. And all over the world, anybody who has gone through the Chronicon material starting in 1901, going all the way through 1902 and parts of 1903, you will know that all over the world, our entire world was bathed in red rain, red mud, red dust. Not only that, but a new star appeared. Not only that, but there were edits. Things were appearing all over our world, such as never had any type of antecedents. Most of the companies that exist in the world today trace their parent companies to 1902. We've got 3 videos on that. So the Petit Trianon Mystery of 1901 is one that I had never heard about. But apparently, for a while, it was famous. So Anne Moberly, in her 50s, in 1901, in the month of August, her name was Anne Moberly. She was in her 50s, and her friend was Eleanor Jourdain in her late 30s. They visited Paris together in August of 1901. They have gone down in history as writing one of the most impossible stories of the centuries, though they vow it to be true. And because of who they are, they weren't disbelieved. Anne was the principal of St. Hugh's Women's College at Oxford University. She was the descendant of Tsar Peter the Great of Russia. Eleanor held an honorary degree of a Master of Arts at Oxford, and she was a descendant of the French Huguenots. She would later be awarded a doctorate at the University of Paris. In 1901, the 2 Oxford teachers visited Paris, then traveled to Versailles, where they walked from the canal to the park. This is a Trianon Park, particularly Petit Trianon Park. Trianon, I don't know how to say it. When they entered the park, the first things that they noticed was a very old plow. And 2 men were standing next to a door, and they were wearing some peculiar, odd green coats, and they wore these 3-corner old hats, and all their clothing looked very well kept. So the ladies asked the men for directions to a house that they knew of, because they were going to an event in a house that was going to have some people that they knew. This is in France. So the men didn't respond, just looked at them curiously while they were speaking, and then gestured the direction. And so the 2 ladies they thought it was kind of unusual, and they got on the path and they just took off walking. So the ladies walked by a lone cottage where a middle-aged woman was handing a very heavy-looking pot to a teenage girl who was reaching down for it. As they were walking, they realized that the woman and the teenage girl were both just standing very, very still, and they both got an uneasy feeling about what was going on. So when they realized that the woman was still holding the pot, which looked heavy, at an uncomfortable position, and the girl was reaching down from the steps to take the pot, and neither one of them moved, both women kind of got spooked and just hurried down the path. Didn't even hang around. They didn't even hang around. They're going toward a party. So they just kept going. So later on, when the two women would put their accounts together back in England, one of the women wrote in the account that it was almost as if the two females in the cottage had been stuck in time. They had been stopped, like a motion picture had been turned off, but the screen was still on. It spooked them out. This is August 1901. So the two women from Oxford, they came to a thick wood, and outside there was a man with a disease-mottled face sitting in some type of round kiosk. So these two women come down this path, and directly ahead of them is a very thick wood, like an old forest. But this is outside of Versailles, and it's called Petit Trianon Park. And they thought it kind of odd, man. It's like, man, they don't remember there's supposed to be a forest here, but there's a real thick wood and a kiosk outside, as if he's governing traffic going in and out this path. And he's got a disease-mottled face, but he never looks at them. And it kind of spooks them out. So they don't talk to him. And instead, they start hearing somebody yelling. And it's in French, but it's not a dialect that they can really disentangle. Things are very odd. These two women from England, Oxford, stand aside as a boy comes bursting out of the forest running, and he's saying something like an announcement. He like whatever he's saying must be important, because he's very urgent, but he's saying it aloud and getting louder and louder, as if he's getting closer to whoever needs to hear it. So they barely make some of it out, but they can't quite figure it out, and they decide to just go down the path. And then suddenly the path opens up, and there's a building there, and they go into the building, and it's an old building, but it's where they expected where a party to be, and the party was going on. They had a really uneasy feeling about the whole thing, and they went in and they found the people they were expected to be with here. So everything's back to normal now. So they were just very uneasy the whole time. So that's the whole event. If you want to read more, they go into a lot of micro detail that I didn't want to go into, because I'm just giving this an example of the weird edits that happened in 1901 to 1902. This is just a really good example in this book right here. Because when these two women returned to England and began sharing their memories of the events, they realized something was truly mysterious, because they remembered totally different things from each other, as if they were perceiving totally different realities. One of them remembered some of the events that I just said, and the other one will remember the other events that I just said, while the other woman didn't remember anything at all of what the other woman remembered. It's like they were fractured in their perception of, as if the two women, for whatever happened, became one person. So during the unease event, so they went back in 1902. In 1903, the two women went back to Versailles. They went back to the park Petit Trianon, because they were truly perplexed. They had written full accounts of what they remembered, and they put them side by side, and there were gaps missing, and they just couldn't figure it out. So they went back. When they went back, the wood was gone. The cottage did not exist anymore. The old plow wasn't where it was supposed to be. Buildings were different. The path itself was now paved or something. I can't remember. Something was different about the path. And the antique home where the party was completely modernized. It wasn't old and antique anymore. So the two women spent some time in 1903 in Versailles and in Paris, talking to the locals, going through all the local repositories and libraries, looking at the old maps of the city and looking at all the stuff. And they realized, they looked at uniforms, they looked at clothing styles, everything from previous time periods, and they figured it all out. It's amazing the research these two women did. But they figured out that they had literally walked right through France in the late 1790s. Not only that, they even pinpointed the interactions. They talked to locals about all the historical events, and they found out that those men, those strange looking guys in those weird green uniforms with the three-pointed hats, were the Queen's Guards. That was their royal, they're like special forces for the Queen. This was Queen Mary Antoinette, and the boy running out of the forest was coming to tell the Queen and her guardsmen to flee, get to the mansions. This is right before she was beheaded. But the historical record even puts Queen Mary Antoinette in the park of Petit Trianon right before she was captured. So crazy. So this is the French Revolution is what we're discussing here, but it didn't happen in 1856. It didn't happen in 1899. It happened during the Convergence Field episode after May of 1901, in between to May 1902. That's when it happened. That's what makes it of particular interest to us. So you can imagine. Because before I ever knew about this story, I've already told you guys nothing makes sense about 1901, 1902, and 1903. Nothing. Unless Phoenix phenomenon also includes not just red dust, red rain, red mud, volcanic resurfacing, not just bringing and collapsing vapor canopies, not just bringing new life forms and weird life forms, not just bringing new topography, but also edits to the human experience every 138 years. So that I'd already brought a bunch of data to the table that this was happening before I ever learned about this famous story. So crazy. So crazy. So let's go see what Grendel's talking about. That's this book here, which I've only scanned. So we'll probably have a whole video coming out of this book too, because you already know in Archaix, we're fans of Andrew Tomas. So bizarre. All right, bro, what you got in your hand there?
All right, this is Atlas Obscure, an explorer's guide to the world's hidden wonders. And yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in here. The first thing I found was a Cambodian temple from the late 1100s. That has,
oh yeah, hold that closer. We've a little bit closer. Yeah, we've seen that before. Yeah, that's a Stegosaurus.
So how did they know what that looked like if it wasn't existing at that time in the jungle?
Southeast Asia.
Yeah, and it's jungle-like area, so that would be one of the last vestiges for the reptiles. So,
wow.
That was found in a Cambodian temple. And also going along those lines, there's more. It was in Lake Tilly in the Republic of the Congo.
Oh, it's like that movie from the 80s, yeah.
Baby. That's where they. Yeah, I think that's what the movie was based on. Was a Brontosaurus that was supposedly living in that lake.
Yeah, I remember that.
And also in this book, there's a map of North America.
You can go come closer and closer and closer, because we got giant iguanodons in New Mexico. No, that's not New Mexico. That's going to be Utah. We got plesiosaurs everywhere. Giant turtle type creature in New Mexico. A huge giant type of fish in Alaska. Freshwater octopus in Oklahoma.
Yeah, so where did those go? They had to be in the ocean there at one point, just like Texas. So
Wow, I didn't realize the United States had that many areas where there had been multiple sightings.
Yeah, I knew of a few of these, like Champy and Lake Champlain. That's
Yeah.
the same as the Loch Ness Monster. So yeah, that's the one I knew about, but I didn't know there were so many. There's some up in the Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're reported everywhere.
Wow.
So
That's badass.
So that shows that they just weren't just in Europe; they're all over the world. So if they're still existing now, they had to exist in larger numbers back when the environment was a lot more suited for them to exist.
Yeah, later on I'll probably go through that book and try to pull out some of those specifics. I got to know about this octopus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. What's the next book you got?
The next book I got is Mysteries of the Unexplained.
Now, hold that one closer, because this one you showed me last night. Tilt it just a little bit so the light can catch the title. Yeah, no. What I meant was turn it side to side a little bit.
Like this?
Yeah. We can see it good then. Cool. All right.
Yeah. And in this book, there's lots of accounts of living animals being locked in stone or coal. Most of them are reptiles. Because, I mean, reptiles go into that state of hibernation anytime there's, like, no water, no food, or if they get trapped somewhere, they can go dormant. And this one was an account in 1853 in New Mexico. They found a horned lizard that was found alive in a block of stone so solid as to preclude the entrance of the smallest insect. So it was just solid stone.
So this is interesting. This is super interesting because this is how we find fossils.
Correct.
This is how we find fossils.
That's the only way you can find, 3D
So this
fossils
creature
of
didn't
lizards.
fossilize because it hibernated.
It was still alive.
A fossil is created by decomposition, and the decomposing materials is exchanged with the surrounding silicates and minerals that are surrounding the fossil. But if a creature goes into stasis and doesn't decompose, there's no exchange of materials.
Yeah.
So the fossil isn't created.
Correct.
This is also evidence that this whole event that put that creature in that stone was recent.
Had to have been, because I mean, they can go dormant for long periods of time, but eventually, I mean,
Exactly.
their body process
this
are going
totally
to
kills
give
the
out.
fossilization process arguments.
Because there was even a toad that was found that was in a piece of rock, and when they took it out, the mouth was sewn
Because its
together,
mouth had been,
'cause
it
started
had grown together.
grown together, and it didn't live very much longer after that because it couldn't open its mouth, but it was already in that state of starting to die off, but it was still alive.
Wow.
And there's many accounts of that. I mean, there's living toads that were found after an hour and a half after stoking its fire. W.J. Clark of Rugby, England, reached over to poke the coals. When he broke open one coal, he saw something moved and snatched it out of the fireplace, and it was a living toad that survived for 3 weeks. And there's a picture of it.
Oh, hold that closer. This is a toad that came out of a coal lump.
Yeah, and it was already in the fire, and
A
he
lump
broke
of
it
coal.
open.
So he threw his coal lump in the fire and then realized there was something moving as the coal lump was burning, and it was a frog inside the coal lump. Man, you know, we found jewelry, pots, ornate vases, cups, spoons, bells, rings. All human artifacts have been found in coal all over the world.
Exactly.
Now we found a frog.
And then one of the most intriguing ones was the last of the pterodactyls that were found. Let's see when this happened. In 1856, French workmen were trying to complete a railway between Saint Dizier and Nancy. And when they put some explosives in this mountainside and blew out this tunnel, there was something monstrous that stumbled towards them out of a great boulder of limestone they had just split open. So it was inside the rock. It fluttered its wings, croaked, and died at their feet. And the creature had a wingspan of 10 feet 7 inches, had 4 legs jointed by a membrane like a bat. And what should have been feet were long talons, and the mouth was arrayed with sharp teeth, and the skin was black like leather, thick and oily.
The pterodactyl.
As a pterodactyl. And yeah, a nearby town of Gray, the creature was immediately identified by a local student of paleontology as a pterodactyl.
Wow.
And yeah, the rock, and yeah, it was
Trapped in rock.
trapped in limestone.
Trapped in limestone, man. So during a liquefaction event, the great horn blast of Phoenix, the doom shape in the sky, liquefies rock. People sink into the ground. Animals sink into the ground. And then when the horn blast stops, everything solidifies back to its normal deal. This is the picture we have from the Phoenix phenomenon, the doom shape.
Yeah, and here's some of the human artifacts they found in rock.
Yeah, I've shown that picture before.
Bell.
There's the bell. Your finger's over the bell. Look how ornate that bell is. That bell is fantastic. Found inside coal lumps, right?
Right. And then there's a rock here that has a human molar. That part of it, the iron leached into it, and then part of the rock leached into the top.
Yeah, but
It
how
became
old's
a
that rock?
fossilized-
What's the age of that fossil?
Yeah.
What are they saying that rock is? How old is that rock?
Let's see, the strange tooth. It was found in 1926, and they estimated the age of the coal deposits as 10 million years.
Yeah, we know that's not true.
Yeah, that's not true, but it's still old, very old.
Yeah, because the reason all this is dated like that is because the uniformitarians have already decided that coal takes millions of years to form. So they did this before we started finding all the shit in the coal.
Correct.
So yeah, that coal is nothing but a Phoenix world that was burned.
And then this is a geode that they broke open, and they found what looks like part of a spark plug.
Yep, I've seen some of those. It's not the only one we found.
No.
Yeah, that's a good. I'm going to add that one to my collection when we're done with this video. But I have other spark plugs that have been found.
Correct. And I mean, that's pretty much end of that. The next part of this book that I found that it ties into this, because this is actually the second account, but the first account was in this book, which is Unsolved Mysteries of the Past.
Okay.
And it talks about these green children that appeared in the wool pit of Suffolk, England.
Yeah, the wool pit children. We've talked about them in
Right.
Archaix before.
Yeah, and it was during the reign of King Stephen. This is during the middle of like the end of it. So 1135 to 1154 is when King Stephen reigned. But it was a boy and a girl that they found in a ditch, and they were clad in garments of strange hue and unknown texture, but their skin was green. And they claimed to come from a land called Saint Martin. And there's even like a like an embroidery that has the green children on there. And they said that the land, let's see, they came from a green twilight world that they called St. Martin's Land.
Huh. Another vapor canopy reference.
And in 1887, two children appeared in a cave near Baños, Spain, and their skin was also green, and their clothes were of an unfamiliar material. And they learned enough Spanish to explain that they came from a sunless land where one day a whirlwind had swept her and her companion away and deposited them into a cave. So they also came from a sunless land.
It's like
which
Captain
was
Jack Sparrow. Just go down to go up.
Exactly. So, and yeah, let's see. The girl died in 1882, and yeah, they still don't know where they came from, because
Dude, these are the people of the Voynich manuscript.
they could be,
Tell you, man, it's crazy.
because yeah, that was around the same time period, right?
Man, it's crazy. Is that the conclusion of all
That's
those
the
books?
conclusion. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's some deep. I mean, it's material that, in Archaix we can't practice exclusions. These things have to be talked about. We have to.
Yeah, there are anomalies that happen.
Exactly.
There's a historical account, so
So we have two separate accounts separated by centuries of two people appearing with green skin, unusual clothes, and they both claim to have come from a sunless land. So we have artifacts in coal. We have biological organisms that go into stasis naturally. Amphibians, reptiles, and insects do that. They go into stasis, but not one time. And we found many toads that are trapped and they're alive. Lizards, toads, now the pterodactyl and other creatures have been found entombed in rock, but we've never found a mammal entombed in rock that was not a fossil, because they die.
Right.
They
Yeah.
die and they decompose.
Because yeah, all that land was probably during some cataclysm was probably liquefaction that turned all that to some kind of like mud or some kind of liquid that encased these, and then was immediately flash frozen into rock.
So you see how much uniformitarians have to ignore. They have to practice exclusions. They have to leave all the anomalous material out of consideration in order to push, this fantastic 200 million, 65
Yeah, they say it takes time, all these layers of sediment that appear. No, it's instantaneous. It had to have been for it to be. Especially,
to me, coal deposits are nothing but burned worlds.
No.
They were the surface world. That's why we have the bowls and spoons and vases and cups and rings and human artifacts and wood chips. That's what coal is. Wood chips, whole forests that as they were burning, they were crushed and buried. So all the human inhabitants,
those reptiles wouldn't survive with just layers being laid down over millions of years.
There is no doubt in my
Has been
mind that if
recent.
somebody was looking for it, they would find DNA in coal deposits that hadn't totally coalified. You know what I mean? In the coal seams,
Right.
where they still have organic materials like wood and all that. I bet a lot of that material would have mammalian and human DNA in it.
It's quite possible.
Yeah, its whole surface world's been burned. This has been so fascinating, man. It's just blows
This
my mind.
is this is just scratching the surface of what's out there.
Bro, we spent about 5 hours going through books, and we only picked out 10 books, and we
10
got all
books,
this
yeah.
information out of. Yeah, you got 5 books? I got about 5 books, 6 books. Yeah, it's amazing. You're gonna have to come back again, and we're gonna have to do it all over again, because that's what inspires me to go through all these books, just kicking it, pulling the books out, and just going through them.
Sounds great.
Otherwise, I'm never gonna do it.
Yeah, we can make it happen.
Yeah, man, it's pretty fun. All right. Well, this is Jason, Grendel Dark, and we're gonna sign out. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Oh, this presentation is far from done. That's just the segments with Grendel Dark. We are done. Grendel has presented what he found from the 5 books he went through, but I'm not finished. I'm not finished yet. So let me get over here and share my screen. Let's see, what book is this we're going through? Such fascinating stuff. It's always so fascinating. So I was going through one of these books and I saw this picture of the sleeping Buddha. I'm going to show it to you because it's not really relative to, it's relative to convergence field only in 2 aspects. Let me share my screen. So one of the books that I'm taking information out of that I've already showed you has this picture in it. If I can find the picture. There we go. So it's famous. This is the Sleeping Buddha. Grotto 58, Tun Wang. So it says, among the various human figures behind the god, Buddha is laying here recumbent. He's sleeping. There are some which seem to belong to unknown races, while others have features like American Indians. So two things kind of jumped out when I was looking at this inside this book. So the Buddha is asleep. Such an interesting message, because the act of laying down and being asleep in front of basically a montage of every single human type known back then is a message unto itself. And it's a message that we've already covered in Archaix. Do you remember this? When we covered this is the sleeping Buddha in front of all the different human types in the collective. Is there a message here similar to what we find in the Middle Ages and Renaissance period? We find in the alchemical text. This is the sleeping Buddha, but this is the sleeping Adam right here. And instead of the human family, we have the construct. The message the message here is that all this phenomena is governed by orders of archons or angels. Here are the angels at the top, and they all have their specific orders. All these angels at the top have their specific orders to keep this construct in motion. All the weather phenomena, everything of the senses is put to order and highly regulated here. And it's regulated by the stars. The patterns of the stars give the angels their orders to execute the phenomena that we call weather and that we call conditions inside the construct. But while mankind is inside the construct, he's actually asleep. He's sleeping. This was the message in the alchemical tress. Why is this interesting? Because this was illustrated and published in a book by Robert Flood in the year 1626. What's 1626? Well, let's ascertain that really simple with a mathematical demonstration. 1626 plus 138 is 1764. You know what happened in 1764. Add another 138 years and we have 1902. Add another 138 years, we'll be at 2040. Over and over and over, we keep getting presented the same concept that mankind is in a construct, and that while he's in the construct, the true immortal is actually asleep. Life is but a dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. You know the song. I didn't have to sing it. So is this what we find here with the sleeping Buddha? Because the same image in ancient America is called Chocmool. And in the Chocmool, we have the sleeping Chocmool, who's all the ancient central Mayan and Olmec cities had the Chocmool, and he's always in a central plaza, and it's a statue of a recumbent god. So I'm just saying it's interesting. So seeing that the author of this book is declaring that this depicts the races of mankind behind the sleeping Buddha, I wanted clearer pictures of what we're looking at. And I found them. This is Grotto 58. According to the author, we have the known races of man in here, but we also have races of humans that are represented here that are no longer in our world. We can't see them all, and we can't see them all clearly. This is the exact same sleeping Buddha, but depicted in Vietnam. This is the Vietnamese sleeping Buddha. Grotto 58. That's a much better picture of Grotto 58 there. That. Uh-oh, I want to be a cowboy, baby. Yeah, man, just a little fun. Just something interesting, intriguing. Oh, but we're not done. We are not done. So I got those down here. So in this massively epic book here, this big old book, Incredible Life, a handbook of biological anomalies. This is the source book project, William Corliss. I'm always telling you about this guy. And we're not talking about a small amount of material. This book is packed. This is not a J Dreamer's book. This right here, this book is absolutely packed full of data. No skipping lines. Margin to margin. But I'm not going to hold that book up. I already photographed some interesting pages, and that book merits its own videos. But I'm going to go through some of them right here. Let me share my screen. Things that are relative to what we're talking about. Yeah, man. All right. So that was the boy George. That was a boy George back in there, but the sleeping Buddha. that was Boy George's hat. I'm looking at my comment section real quick to catch up. This is one of very few videos I've been able to look at the comment section, and it's because Grendel Dark was so busy in it. So we're not going to go into detail here. I'm just giving you an idea. I plan on doing videos out of this book. Huge. I got so many source book project books now. They all merit videos. And as soon as I'm done with Archaix Academy, I'll have much more free time to go deep into these research videos like I've had a habit of doing in the past few years. So a remarkable dwarf child, 1881. This isn't a standalone. Over and over and over, we're confronted with ruins that only dwarves could live in. And I don't mean the dwarves that you see in Hollywood today, where they're kind of short and pudgy and they look like miniaturized humans. I'm talking about people that are anatomically correct without all the squatness, and they're still people, but they're just tiny. They're tiny people. They're calling them dwarfs here in this old book, but they're just tiny people. And there are ruins in China, Southeast Asia, and in South America and in Central America, where it's evidence that whole entire cities had districts in them that were for the small people. And the staircases and the architecture and everything was for people, man, that our size could never fit in them. So how did they get here? Where did they come from? Why have they disappeared? Again, we're talking about convergence fields. Account of the Patagonian giants from the 1550s all the way to the 1700s. The Patagonian giants were a thing. What happened to them? All these navigators. You have to understand the penalties that these ship captains would have suffered. Agonizing executions if they would have falsified their admiralty logs. Because every time the ships went back to base, they had to submit their logs. They had to. This is how so many awesome books were written about the world, because all these ships were always coming in, submitting their logs and everything. Everybody's accounts was going through, and they took all this information before the ship went out again with fresh log. Yeah, the captain's minutes, they were always looked at, and giants filled these accounts from this time period. This is an account of a bone shedder. It is so unusual, but a woman, she knew about an hour before it was going to happen that she was going to shed a bone. And it was documented, and scientists checked it out, and it was true, and she never felt any pain. But her skin would open up, and a bone would stick out, and she would just work the bone out, and her bones shed. So her bones renewed themselves, and it was painless to her. She just had to stop moving for a while, and a whole femur would splinter off, and she would have new bone underneath it in the splint. She would pull the old bone out, and there's only been a documented 2 or 3 of these cases, but this one woman was studied in the 1890s, and they called her the bone shedder, and it was just all her entire life she shed her bones. It is absolutely crazy. The occasional 8th true rib. So Eskimo men may be getting an extra rib. So we have skeletons that have been found in the United States with 26 ribs. Anatomically correct humans with 26 ribs instead of 24. How is this possible? Again, we're talking about tertiary fields. We're talking about edits that are done in the field, tertiary field environment. Tertiary fields they're always happen in orders. Remember, it's orders of magnitude with Phoenix. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th magnitude. 2040, the one coming up, is a 3rd magnitude event, meaning it's going to be fourth fourth magnitude frequency, edits, cataclysm, disappearances, all kinds of shit, but highly localized to an area. Yeah, first magnitude is a small location that is receiving all the Phoenix changes to our reality are focused on one little area. This is how a whole civilization just disappears. But surrounding kingdoms, civilizations, and continents, and they have no idea something just happened. Second magnitude was 1902. Second magnitude, there was edits all over the world, but that's all they were. There was edits. There was 3 volcanoes that killed a lot of people, a total of 60 to 65,000 people, but there were huge edits to geography, and there was massive fallout of red rain, red dust, red mud. And there was a lot of new things introduced in 1902. We've already covered that in 7 videos, but it was only second magnitude. 2040 is third magnitude, meaning the fourth magnitude effects will be felt somewhere in our world. It will be in one hemisphere and centrally located in that hemisphere. And we have already identified as China and Southeast Asia bearing 90% of the brunt of the Phoenix phenomenon in 2040. And we've already discussed how we even ascertain that. 2178 is a different story. It's full systemic reset, total tertiary field immersion. Now, that's when these things happen, these edits, and then we find records of these edits in the fossils. So here's the luminous woman of Pirano. It's inexplicable. During the daytime, you can't tell, but at nighttime, this woman gives off phosphorescent light. And this is something that's been recorded many times and with many people. Even eyeballs. Sometimes it's not the body. Sometimes it's eyeballs. It's their eye orbs that actually glow in the dark. That's the luminous woman of Pirano. Then we have spontaneous combustion. We've talked about that in Archaix as well. Many different accounts of spontaneous combustion. Spontaneous combustion is very, very similar to Lahaina, Hawaii. It's very similar to the LA fires. It's very similar to many of these events that we're calling directed energy weapons. Spontaneous. The reason I'm saying this is because with the accounts of spontaneous combustion, they are so anomalous because somebody sitting in a rocking chair literally burns up in seconds and they're gone. But the rocking chair itself only has surface burns from being located near heat, but the wood itself did not burn. Yeah, spontaneous combustion is another mystery. Intelligence raised when half the brain is removed. Again, what have we told you in Archaix many times? The brain does not possess knowledge. It does not possess information. It is a hormone factory. It is a broadcaster. It is a receiver. Information is already in the field. And part of that field is your informed field. The highly personal informed field contains all the information you have ever come into contact with in your entire time in this avatar. So right now you are moored to your avatar. When you are separated from your avatar, you will remember everything. You will remember everything in the field that belongs to you in every avatar that you've ever experienced. Why? Because there is no information in the brain. The brain is a filter. The brain is also a broadcaster. The brain is also a receiver of the information that's in the field. And it's a hormone factory to make sure that the avatar feels the necessary emotions that are in proportion to the data it's receiving in the brain. Here's evidence of that. Intelligence raised when half of the brain was removed. How did that happen? So we have the accounts of Yeti, Sasquatch, and other humanoids, the abominable snowman. The reason this is interesting is because these beings show physical evidence, olfactory evidence. You smell them, you see the footprints, they've made plaster casts out of the footprints, and still nobody's caught one. Dogs can smell them and chase them down, but no one's caught them. Why? Because somehow they phase in and out of our reality. Therefore, they can manipulate the field. These are the types of footprints that have been found, that have been associated to the Yeti and the abominable snowman and Sasquatch, the Bunyan, whatever you want to call him. So, human foot. 2 is a reconstruction of the Yeti foot discovered in the morning 1972. 3 is the foot of a gorilla. So it's humanoid. So here's the recent existence of the mammoth. Yeah, it's not even a mystery. I just wanted to show it here. We already know. They got crushed herbs and yeah, during the summer of 1880, a mastodon was found in Iroquois County, Illinois, that gave every evidence of having lived among the same life and vegetation as prevails today. A mass of fibrous bark-like material was found between the ribs, filling the place of the animal's stomach, which proved to be composed of crushed herbs and grasses similar to those that still grow in the vicinity. I tell you guys all the time, the mammoths and the mastodons only died out about 2,000 years ago. All this uniformitarian ice age crap is fiction. It's science fiction. It's total BS. Absolute BS. Lots of evidence about mammoths still in the land of the living. Even reported by Spanish conquistadors, the mammoths and mastodons were still here. Chinese accounts of the mammoth. This is a report from 1890. Myths hint that Indians knew of the mammoths. Of course they do. We've seen David Hatcher Childers. He's got a whole chapter on showing all the different totems and reliefs and bone whistles that were all made of mammoth tusks and done recently. Flathead Lake Monster. This is a Native American belief in some monster living in Flathead Lake. Grendel Dark was showing us about monsters in Europe. He also showed a map of the United States where monster sightings and legends are real prominent. Here's some African mystery beasts. Describe things like brontosauruses deep in the saurians, deep in the African swamps and jungles. Anomalous distribution of time and space. The late survival of the moa. Here's another piece of the puzzle. So we like to call all these three-toed fossilized prints, we like to call them dinosaur footprints. The reason we like to call them that is because that's what the uniformitarians are telling us they are. And they're not, it's not true. They're giant birds. And they're found all over the world, and human footprints are found with them, and also vehicle tracks are found with them. I got a whole video that shows all three, and they're all three found together in the same areas of the world and all on the surface. While dinosaur or giant reptile and giant amphibian skeletons and fossils are found very near to the surface too, but human remains, human artifacts, and even pyramid temples and cities of humans are found at 60 to 600 feet depth. How is that possible? The dinosaurs, if it's even true, should be way deeper than any evidence of any human architecture or artifacts. All the coal seams have human artifacts in them. So all dinosaur fossils should be far below the coal seams. Everything we have been told by uniformitarians is an absolute gaslighting. It's all lies. It's all, they have no idea. They have no idea what they're talking about. So these moa are wingless birds, these giant webbed three-toed feet. The moa, that's what we have. What do Native American pictographs show? What do their artwork show? They show giant birds, not dinosaurs. They show giant wingless birds eating people, picking up people and eating them. That's what they show. So yeah, all these tracks all over the world, they're two kinds. There are the three-toed, but they're all calling dinosaurs, Dilophosaurs, whatever name they made up, or they're saurian, almost squarish saurian, like Brontosaurus deals. But we have a painting from 1561 of anatomically correct Brontosauruses. How is that possible? But I've showed that in other videos. Reported discovery of living moas. supposed to be extinct since the Ice Age, alive and well in the 1800s. Some possible enormous birds, unrecognized species, on a gigantic bird sculpted in the tomb of an officer of the household of Pharaoh. 1845, they're looking in an Egyptian tomb and they find birds, giant moai birds, wingless birds that should have been extinct long before Egypt ever came around. Here is parthenogenesis and all female populations, virgin birth. This too answers for us on the tertiary field phenomena, all this red rain, red mud, red dirt that's being deposited in our world, and the Nemesis X convergence tertiary field is bringing all these eggs, egg pods, larvae, insects, amphibians, reptiles into the construct. And Nemesis X, Nibiru, has always been associated to crocodiles and snakes. Go figure. The ancients had all this figured out. We just weren't paying attention. They've left us all these details. We just never put it all together. Hell, it was even the ancients that put together the Exodus story. The Exodus story is what? It is a people leaving a world that is being destroyed, and they're making their exodus. That's it. Break it down to the simplest common denominators. Exodus events, tertiary field events, cataclysmic events are all the same thing. It's all the same thing. Problems in explaining turtle ancestry. Not a turtle after all. All kinds of scientific data on the turtles and why the turtle in the fossil record is still a turtle. But wait a minute, let's go a little bit deeper. Oh, wow, it's still a turtle. Wait a minute, the shell acting as an independent body of the actual turtle, the reptile, is an amazing, very highly specialized anatomy. So let's go a little bit deeper and see where the turtle evolved from. Wait a minute. When we go deeper, we find it's still the same turtle. So we can solve the problem, though. We can go all the way back to the earliest times the reptiles appeared, man, to find this turtle. Oops, it's still a turtle. So dumb. Uniformitarianism is so dumb, man. So on the vitality of toads enclosed in firm materials. This is what Grendel Dark was showing. We've got a lot of examples in this. The rock isn't hundreds of millions of years old if a toad or a frog or a lizard, salamander, or an insect is revived after it's freed from the cavity. It can't be that old, but you assume it to be that old because that's all you've ever been told all your life is that rocks are millions of years old. But no. With tertiary field phenomena, we now understand that mud and clay and different types of soil compositions can be turned to stone in seconds. Fossils are created in seconds. Oh no, Jason. Oh no, we know how fossils are made. Yeah, fossils take a long time. They take millions of years, sometimes hundreds of thousands to millions of years. Yeah, see Jason, the organic materials get trapped, and under high pressure and weight, the organic materials decompose. And when they decompose, it flattens it all out. And then as it's flattened out, it's like a pancake and it's decomposing. Well, the surrounding silicates and minerals replace the decomposing material, and it leaves a cavity of what the organism vaguely looked like, minus the compression. That's how fossils are formed, Jason. I wish I had that Batman meme where Batman slaps the crap out of Robin. Get your ass out. We're not trying to hear that BS anymore. We've already got too many hundreds, even thousands of 3D fossils perfectly preserved. We have fossils of animals in the middle of fighting each other. Death grips, biting each other, fossilized. We have jellyfish in 3D with the tendrils flowing as if they're still underwater, turned to stone. Medusa effect. Flash froze everything from the highest mountains to the lowest seabeds. We have whole entire bivalve colonies on the ocean bottom with their shells shut, closed. No, man. When a bivalve dies, It instantly relaxes and the shell's open. Not buying any of that. Uniformitarian explanation of fossils will never explain why we have hundreds of fossils now found in the middle of eating other fossils. How did that happen? Well, I'm going to die anyway, and I'm already halfway turned to stone. So you're out of there, bro, because you're smaller than I am, and you're real close to my mouth, and you're already turning to stone even faster than I am. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a bite. Man, shut up. They're fossilized because they were flash frozen in time, because somebody turned the switch off, because some type of field interaction happened and it was instantaneous and the temperature dropped to like 200 below zero. That's the only way you can explain how all the micro details on octopus were flash frozen perfectly, and how we have so many thousands of specimens of jellyfish that are a half a mile underwater frozen solid as if they're still flowing through the water. We have anatomically 3D perfect shrimp swimming through the water. We have perfectly preserved fossilized plankton. Plankton, super tiny. So the next time you try to tell me how a fossil is formed and you're using your uniformitarian model of the, I'm not trying to hear it. Yeah, get the hell out of my field, man. I'm done. I'm tired of the dumbasses. Really dumb. I'm really fed up with it. I don't want to hear that bullshit. Toad found in a flint. Wait a minute, Jason. That Flint takes millions of years to fall. Hell, flint is so hard we make arrowheads and tools and pewter bowls out of it and all that. Yeah, man. So how did a toad get preserved in flint? Same thing. A water or a liquid inundated surface with all these scrambled materials. By weight and density, heavier materials would form. As they layer, they do create compression. And then when the sun came out after the vapor canopy collapsed, which is a totally different event than the flash freezing of the ancient world, I believe the whole flash freezing of the ancient world that literally flipped the whole switch off was 7344 BC. I don't believe there is a single difference between, I'm not 73, no, I tripped out. 7344 years is how long the cycle is. The cycle is 2448 years plus 2448 years plus 2448 years, as I've demonstrated many times, and why. It began in 5239 BC, but to me, there is no difference whatsoever between the year 5239 BC of our past and 7,344 years later, which is our year 2178 AD, which happens to be 138 years after 2040. To me, 5239 BC of the ancient past is the same year as 2178, because time is not linear, it is cyclical. And 2178 is the immortal loop number that never collapses. It is the absolute proof that we live in a construct. All of you who have seen my Archaix challenge on the number 2178 know what I'm talking about. And it's just a coincidence, right, that 2178 happens to be 138 years after 2040. So of course it's just coincidental. Just like the reset machine is patterned out in rectilinear dimensions of 138 in feet and in inches. It's just a coincidence that the Great Pyramid of Egypt has these amazing measurements that are commensurate with all these convergence field phenomena dates that I've told you in the past. Every bit of this is just coincidence. Toad found in a flint. Toad found in a coal. Right there. 1901. A toad is found in the coal. An antediluvian monster, 1922. I'm just skimming through these. We're going to end up doing videos on this book. It's just too big. A brontosaurus in Bolivia, the Bolivian swamps. Imagine that. The government got involved on that one. The Brazilian minister at La Paz, Bolivia, and the minister of foreign affairs in Rio. There's the parthenogenesis again, all female populations. all female strains of the teleost fishes of the genus, I can't even say that, Pauciliopsis. Self-perpetuating populations of unisexual vertebrates. Almost sounds kinky. Insect swarms and population explosions. We've talked about this too from 1867 to 1869. The insect floods that happened to the UK. Documented by Charles Fort. More evidence that we're in a construct, and that it's aware. Only when the collective become aware that, hey, what happened to all the roaches and all the mayflies and all the doodle bugs? Where are the centipedes? How come no one's seen a bumblebee or a bee or a wasp or a spider? No one's seen anything in almost a year. What's going on? Well, what was happening? That says our food storages are getting raided by mice and all these rodents don't have their normal diet anymore. So they're now all up in our cupboards and messing with everything. What's going on? And once it became known in the construct by a whole bunch of souls, the construct itself overcorrected. And what happened? Rivers of insect larvae fell from the sky. Rivers of insects that half of them were frozen rained all over England and London and parts of France. So terrible were the insect rivers falling from blue skies that even ship captains had to call all hands on deck to broom off all the raining insects off their ships. It's crazy. Remarkable cloud of fly, a puzzling butterfly migration. Yeah, this book's got some interesting things. We can equally say that sometimes when like butterflies suddenly just appear in the construct. Yeah, I can understand if people don't want to go all the way with the parthenogenesis deal, but the evidence is parthenogenesis. The reason we have evidence, listen, my book, Anunnaki Homeworld, in the very last chapter of that book published in 2011 is called Shards of Nibiru. And in that book, I itemize a whole bunch of times in history where insect rains happened in Antarctica. And ice cores showed layers of insects that just fell from the sky. Why in Antarctica? There's nothing out there. You're not going to tell me that all these butterflies and wasps and spiders and all these creatures made it to Antarctica somehow. No, they fell from the sky. It's parthenogenesis. It is the construct always providing life, even where life can't live, can't exist. It's always providing it. There's always tadpoles and there's fish and there's seed pods and all this stuff. A lot of times we have spiders and long webs raining from the sky, and we always assume it came from somewhere else. Massive butterfly colonies going through a city, and we automatically assume, oh, all the caterpillars must have hatched. Yeah, it's the same dumb assumption we make when the news tells us, oh, don't worry about all that what is it? Yeah, don't worry about all that dust that's all over your city right now. The winds were really bad a few weeks ago over the Sahara. So it can be red dust, it can be black dust, it can be brown dust, it doesn't matter. Anywhere in the world where strange dusts fall from the sky and they blanket the cities, and people are out there taking pictures and posting them on YouTube and on Facebook and all the social medias, and everybody's tripping. But the news gives you just enough. Oh no, those came from the Chinese Taklamakan Desert. Oh, those came from the Sahara. They get up in their troposphere and then they blow over the world and they fall down somewhere else. That's really crazy that the sky can change the color of the white sands and the golden sands of the Sahara and make them brown and black by the time they rain on Arizona. It's amazing. It's crazy. That's uniformitarian weather reports. The Florida sea monster, more sea monster evidence. Here's these books. These are the books from today's presentation. Here's 5 of them. These are the 5 books that Grendel Dark went through. These are the 5 books that I went through. Oh, we're not done yet. Don't go nowhere. I got another video clip to show you and some other stuff. Yeah, man. We're doing it. So somebody had sent me this. Let me share this to you because I didn't have this when I did the handbag decode showing you the original Sumerian Etana seals were the oldest depiction of the handbags that I could find in the Near East. I didn't have this. Somebody had sent it to me since then. So let's check it out. The reason this is interesting is because this is a picture of the Neo-Assyrian handbag, but all these guys that are talking about the handbags never show this picture. And I get it. Because if you're steadily promoting it's a handbag, this picture is going to dispel that. I've never seen this picture before, and I've been through a bunch of social media accounts looking at all the handbags. But this blow up of the handbag shows perfectly that it's exactly what I said it was. It's a bucket. That's a bucket. Also, a part of the Phoenix phenomenon is upheaval and subsidence. So we have an excellent example here. I tell you guys all the time that Tiwanaku, Pumapunka, and all the ruins that surround Lake Titicaca were never built at that elevation at 12,500 feet. It's not possible. One, it's too hard to breathe for large construction works anyway. It's very cold up there too. Lake Titicaca is a freshwater lake. It is the highest elevation of any freshwater lake in the world. But you're looking at it here. This is Lake Titicaca, way up here at the top. The ruins of Lukurmata, Pumapunka, Tiwanaku, they're all up here. And yet the ruins here match they match Easter Island to a T. These ruins up here never happened. So Poznansky in 1901, 1902, and 1903, when he was excavating Tiwanaku high up in the Bolivian Altiplano, he noticed that there were fossilized shorelines. You can see the old beach fronts. Then he found quays and docks all at 12,000 feet. So it's upheaval. In 1687 BC, in the Ogygian deluge, this area shot up 12,000 feet above sea level. It was on the ocean. It was perfectly level with similar ruins just across the lower Pacific called Easter Island. But now it's been shot straight up. Also, it has its own freshwater seahorses, freshwater sharks, jellyfish. Oh, they all adapted at high altitude up there over a long period of time. But it was a very recent event, less than 4,000 years ago. I just wanted to show you. This little diagram right here. So I'm going to show you this badass video. You got any uniformitarians out there who want to talk about rocks are millions and millions of years old? Explain this, because this guy filmed it on live video. This is badass. If I can find it. All right. So he uses a metal detector. In case you missed that first part, I'm going to rewind it. He uses a metal detector to find stuff, archaeology. Look at this boulder. A uniformitarian, I'll give you an example. Graham Hancock is going to ask Randall Carlson, how is this rock right here? And he's going to look at it, and he's going to see that chalk formation, or it might be snow. He's going to see that white in that rock, and he's going to go through there, and he's going to look at the crystalline compound, and he's going to hypothesize, oh man, you know what? I think this is way later than Permian Basin. We're here on the surface. It's surrounded by, look at that, all that's igneous rock right there, but we do have this sedimentary. Check this out. check this out, Graham. It's going to turn this rock over there. Yeah, you see the discoloring from the top to the bottom. We're going to talk about, it's probably been exposed to oxygen for thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of years before this. You know what? Due to proximity with these other outlying juts and strata, I'm going to have to say this. We're looking at something that's probably 30 million to 200 million years old, give or take, 20 million. That's what that's what Randall Carlson's going to tell somebody when they ask how old this boulder is. So let me educate you visually by just how old that boulder really is. So his metal detector, he's got a nice one, senses that there's something up in here. There's something up inside here. So he's breaking off all these slabs. Look at that. That's a boulder. A crowbar, hammer, and chisel. Breaking that thing apart. Uh-oh. What is that? I sped up the camera because I didn't. It's a long video. Then I slowed it down when he opens it up. Yeah, man, look at that. A little bitty pot with a lid on top and two little metal handles on the side and some type of old coinage that has holes drilled in it. So you can put it on a wire or a string. But they're coins. Little medallions. Nice little old pot. All right, don't give me the line. I have no idea what just happened. No idea. Shouldn't have opened that pot. No, butterfly brain. He shouldn't have opened that pot. Listen, I have no clue what happened because my internet is super strong right now. On my computer, it's registering super strong, but it's not working at all. It's on. My computer registers it on. It's full bars. So I switched over. I got auxiliary. I got one that I take to hotels and all that. I just switched over. But that was weird. Don't even understand. Don't even understand. All right, so I don't know what happened. That was bizarre. I'm going to have to investigate that. All right, let's see. So were we done with that little video? Let me see. That was Grendel. Were we done with that little video? I don't think so. Because we were, yeah. But we might have been done. Look at that. That's crazy, though. So crazy. Yeah, we're not done with this video yet. They're not going to kick me off that easy. So, all these boulders you see, what is the moral to the story here? All these boulders and all these rock formations you see and all these historical accounts from the 1800s when we were widening the net of our infrastructure and we found animals. We found pterodactyl-like animals. We found toads, salamanders, lizards, snakes entombed in solid sandstone and flint. How is that possible? I don't know. But those animals got into that material and were buried in that material when it was turned to stone. So stone doesn't take very long. It takes conditions, not time. Uniformitarians are absolutely in error. This changes everything in the historical record. Once you have divorced yourself from the uniformitarian brainwashing, things begin to make sense. All the stuff we put together in Archaix begins to make sense. The chronology is real. It is strong. It is demonstrable. Uniformitarianism is a poison. It is specifically designed to get people to put their discoveries into frames of reference prepared for them that send things so far back in time they have no utility. There's no way to use that information for anything of value. It's all BS. So this is why I'm always critical. And I'm going to name these guys to the day I die because they need to be named. You're gaslighting the public. You're lying. It's amazing. And the reason it's lying is because in order to say the little bit you say, you ignore all this shit. All this you have to ignore in order to promote the little BS that you promote. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, practicing exclusions is awful. It's awful. Yeah, man. What else I got over here? Just terrible. So I got one final thing to share. And you're going to want to see this. So let's see, share my screen. Let me get rid of that, remove that. I'm going to share my screen. Listen, just because we take things a little too seriously here in Archaix doesn't mean we always have to. You know what I mean? It's there's been people attacking me since the day I brought my material to the table. Whole channels dedicating to just trying to attack me, but it's always ad hominem. There's no one out there. I still haven't seen Gnostic Academy publish a single thing as refutation to all the Archaix research. I hear him crying on his channel, I mean, but I've ignored him and I've dismissed him because he did something that was really below the belt and childish. Yeah, man. When I bring information on the Zodiac to the table you don't agree with, but you can't overturn it. You wanting to believe this Zodiac is, 10,000 years old, whatever the hell you want to believe. Yeah, man, when you fit all your information through the limited filters that you've showed your community, I get it. You're offended by the material that I bring to the table. But there's no reason for you to default to my 17-year-old criminal history. What is it about me at 17 years old that offends you so bad that you got to mention it to your community, and at the same time expect me to entertain anything you have to bring to the table? I'm not. You've showed me who you are. I'm 52 years old. I would never attack a 17-year-old for anything dumbass shit they did back then. In addition to that, you need to get the details on my story right. Yeah, you need to do that too, because you're going to be real surprised. So it's little shit like that. I had the same episode with James True. Why would you name yourself James True unless you were lying? No, man, I got a lot of guys that keep coming into my field, talking shit, but I haven't seen anybody. It's just so weird. I leave them alone. You guys know my history with J Dreamers. I tried to help that dude out. I tried to put that dude on. I don't even want to go into it, man. I even invited him from our Archaix movie. That dude flips so weird psychologically on me. It's so bizarre. But you know what? Then we got this little guy, man. I try to do right by everybody, but you know what? We got Dustin Nemos on X. He's never sent me a professional email saying, hey man, you know what? He's never sent me an email, period. Saying, hey man, I'll debate you on this. I'll debate you on that. Dude, your whole entire box is your interpretation of Christianity. I refuse all of it. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all the Pauline letters. I've gone through all the historical text, all the ancient 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th history. What more can I give you, man? None of that shit's true. But this is the world you believe in. Why would I debate you about things I believe to be untrue? It's stupid. But I would have, even though I would have embarrassed you. But you keep telling your community that you've challenged me to debate, and you haven't. Graham Hancock can't say I didn't challenge him for a debate. You understand? Because I published the emails. Billy Carson can't say I didn't challenge him because I published the emails. Wes Huff can't say I didn't challenge him because I published the emails. You've got no emails to show anybody that you ever challenged me, but you run your mouth to your own community. So I'm always trying. I'm not trying to give them. I see what you're saying, Ryex, or was that Rye3X? I'm not giving anybody my energy. I have enough energy on my own to do whatever I want to do in life. But I try to turn negatives into positive. So I sent Dustin Nemos a Christmas present based off. I said, hey man, don't get offended, bro. But here, when you open this up, I'm sending presents out to people that I feel that the present itself is commensurate with the individual that you fucking broadcast yourself to be. This is who you are to those of us that are in the know, because you keep popping up with some silly, childish bullshit, man. And it's like, come on, man. So I sent him a Christmas present. Yeah. I thought he was going to get offended because that was the purpose. The whole purpose was to offend him. Just to say, hey, man, I'm here, man, and I'm tired of your bullshit. So here, take this. I spent the money, mailed the shit out to Dustin Nemos. Here you go. I wasn't expecting him to send me a message on X talking about, hey, man, F you, dude. He says, after 3 days, this shit started hurting my ankles and I had to go to the doctor. So you know what, man? I wasn't expecting that, but it's okay. It's okay. I thought he would just send him back with an FU. I didn't know he was going to wear him for 3 days. But this is the type of shit that I deal with in the field all the time. I got some real, I hate to say it because I'm going to tell you now, all I want to do is educate the public. All I want to do is bring you the facts. And you can separate fact from fiction yourself. You can. But I have another aspect of my personality that these guys don't want to see. You don't do 26 years in prison and not know how to fight back. You don't do 26 years in prison and not know how to do these little psyops games, because I'm real good at it. In 2026, I may just start entertaining the shit out of you guys with these little side deals. But Dustin Nemos didn't like his Christmas present. It's not my fault he wore these for 3 days. I wasn't intending on the man to put them on. It was sent as disrespect. Yeah, man. Yeah, these guys got another thing coming. They're going to keep running their mouths and think I'm going to ignore it, because I do have the energy to fight all my battles on one front and defend myself on another. I'm that guy. So I don't know why I'm always attacked by these beta cuck type personalities. I don't know why. Maybe it's my deep voice. Maybe it's my prison history. Maybe it's my assertiveness. I don't know. But I'm just letting them know. This right here is the end of 2025. And if you don't want to hear any BS coming from me about you, your platform, your personality, and your negative character traits, then let's start 2026 off right. If not, I'm more than willing to commiserate. So, having said my little public announcement, we shared everything we're going to share. These are all these books. So check this out. This is what I got the other day. Man, oh man. I'm telling you, man. I know those high heels hurt. I know that boy was walking funny. So, The Dinosaur Conspiracies, The Forbidden Truth About Extinct Giants. Pretty good book. I've been flipping through it. What I like about it is he's level-headed, he's critical, he's not believing all that bullshit out there in the field, which makes it such a good read for when he does produce information that he can't explain away. Another good book, The Great Dinosaur Hoax, an analysis for fence-sitters. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. We got some good material. We got so many good books we're going to review. Yeah, man. 2026 is going to be awesome. And of course, these two gold mine books from Mooney I showed you earlier. So many books. How does Pamela say it? So many books, so little time, y'all. That's our presentation. You can thank Grendel Dark in the comment section for joining me. He seems to bring the best out of me sometimes when we're just hanging out in the library, because we'll bounce off ideas and he'll say something that triggers me, and I'll say, well, that's this section over here. That's this book here. Well, these books over here discuss that, and we'll start putting things. And this what happened. You know, he just drove over here 3 hours from Austin, Texas, came out and we hung out, went out to eat, spent some time in the library. I set him up a place to stay on the property overnight, and then turn around the next morning. We recorded that, and he went back home just like that. We produced this video. So you guys can thank Grendel Dark on that. Yeah. So if Dustin Nemo sends those high heels back, if somebody wants them, just let me know. I will just slap a new postage deal on it. All right, guys, let's find us a good. You know what? We're gonna check out the same way we checked in. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna check out the same way we checked in. Andrea Stoffel's such a beautiful video, such a beautiful song. So crazy that I can't even find it. I'm sorry, Andrea. I had trouble. That's why the video was so late. I had so much on my desktop, I could not find where I put your video. That's why the video started late. And now here it is. I'm looking for the damn video again. I still can't find it. Come on, man. I got to be better. I thought it was pretty organized. Video file. So hold on. We may find it here. Nope. How embarrassing. It's not there either. Oh, I found it. There it is. Anyway, I love you guys. That was a fun presentation. It really was.
Phoenix flying through walk among the dangers of a lake great divide, forming wings of radiant light. She'll rise when the sun is out of sight. Warriors of everywhere, take heed, don't despair. You've come a long way, I know, and it's time to be aware. Feel the wind and take a flight, heading into morning light. And I see a country of souls, and to hear the birds echo. We will fly with our own wings to the sea, to the land where we are free and unburdened. Somewhere in the twilight, the brave will survive. Slashed and torn, they struggle through the maze, past the lights, while the radios of fate make us forget from where we came. Don't be late, the time is at hand. 144, please open the door and say I am. There is no time to ignore the promise of today. The message clear, not to fear. Now open up the gate to a land that's clear and bright, heading into morning light. Feel a country of souls, and to hear the birds echo. We will fly with our own wings to the sea, to the land where we are free